Welcome to the Triple Takeover Toycast, a fortnightly podcast all about Transformers and occasionally other vintage toy lines as well. My name is Sixo, but more on that later because we're here to talk about the big toys, Supreme Class Transformers, which is pretty exciting. I think you'll agree, gentlemen.
So we're talking about the Supremes.
Now, listen.
No. Yeah.
I was going to make this joke already, so it feels like we're on the same wavelength here. So, yeah, these are very much the Diana Ross of Transformers.
Stop, in the name of love.
There you go.
You're getting all the hits out already. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, indeed. You're going to keep me hanging on with these, Liam.
The Kim Wilde version is still the better version of that song. I will die on that hill.
Are you? Okay. Interesting.
Forever.
Maybe we'll hear a little bit more about that later. Well, there you go. We have Liam of Toybox Soapbox. How you doing, Liam?
Set me free, why don't you?
God. No what ho tonight.
It didn't feel as befitting as another Supreme joke.
Right, okay, sure. Just
Trying
going
to get them out of my system. Yeah.
Get them all out in the first 5 minutes. Is that it's going to be? So be a short episode after that. And then, of course, we have Jason of Jason J Swags.
Hello
You feeling
there,
particularly supreme tonight?
I am indeed, yes. A lot of reflections to consider on this episode, you know. That was a really tenuous link.
Was it? Okay.
Jason's super tall, so he's like a Supreme class size human being, isn't he?
He is
There is
very
that.
much so,
Yeah.
yes.
I mean, you're
Supreme.
tall as well, but Jason's like a walking skyscraper next to you, isn't he? And the rest of us.
Yeah, this is true. Yeah, I think I'm maybe leader class to his supreme class.
Wait till we meet a conqueror class, then we're in trouble. That's what it
Right,
is.
indeed. And of course, Jason, this is going to be a good excuse for you to talk about your favourite Transformer.
Yes,
And yours.
exactly. More on
You're
that
gonna
later.
Bring him up at every opportunity.
Every chance. And then put him in the bin.
Well, that hasn't happened yet, though, has it? You still talk about the thing all the time.
I found the Supreme Cheetor in the loft the other day, just put
Staring
unceremoniously
at you.
into a box, and kind of like, but of course with his like weird wrist just poking out from one side as well. Oh, anyway, we'll go into the
perpetually, yeah.
detail later.
Excellent. Okay, I can't wait to hear
can't
more
wait.
about Supreme
Yeah.
Cheetor. Yeah, brilliant.
My fave.
Liam, maybe we'll enable you on one tonight.
I think I'm fairly safe on that front. I'm a dog guy, so, you know, I wouldn't
man.
want Jesse going after it, old doggy Barker.
That's true. That's true.
They'll end up fighting. It could just become a toy. That's what it was.
Yeah,
I'd just be sat there barking at it furiously.
Yeah, exactly.
might be a nice toy for her.
Whenever I get the toolbox out, she barks at the toolbox, so
Should
stands there
definitely bark
barking
at
at it.
Supreme Cheetor then. Yeah.
Yeah, rightly so. I haven't introduced my cat to it yet, but she wasn't too impressed with, as I say, with the old Robus and Grimlock, so I'm not sure how Cheetor would fare.
Oh, no. And see, now I'm tempted. Now I'm thinking, because she often stands in the kitchen staring through the glass doors at cats when they run across the lawn and barking. So I'm wondering if I could put put a Supreme Cheetor just far enough out the way so she can't clock that it's not a real cat.
Yeah, just behind a
sat in the
curtain,
garden.
like silhouetted.
Fucking-
Exactly.
That would be funny. Well, you can get them for a song, mate. I mean, we saw some loose ones on eBay for like, what, a fiver, £7 or something? So,
Is that a song? Is that a Cockney song, is it?
oh, is it going for a song, mate? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, a
popping.
song.
Yeah,
Popping off.
Popping off. It's all popping
Popping
off.
off. Exactly.
Exactly. Well, I should mention, before we get into the hysterics of all the Supreme Class madness, that we do have a sponsor for the evening, and that is tfsource.com. So do check them out for your Transformers and third-party needs, and we will be doing a bit of a longer segment on them in the middle of the pod. And we also have a Supreme Patreon, which is definitely worth a look, because this is the place to be, isn't it, lads?
It is indeed. Yeah. It's where all the cool kids hang out.
Is that right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Our patrons are cool.
Yeah, okay, good.
I like the way you had to think about it.
There's so much going on right now as well. But, you know, we keep talking about Dog Lunch UK and the Transformers, but really lovely post from Bonzarat the other day as well about his lead into
Bonzarat.
Is that it? It was Bonz. Is it Bonzarat?
I think it's just Bonzrat.
Bonzarak.
Oh no!
Is
It's
it
like
Bonzarat?
Seacons. Oh no!
Oh, are you comparing it to Mega Zarak?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm improving that is handle. That's what I'm doing.
Is that the French name for Scorponok then? Bonzarak.
Bonzarat.
Bonzarat. Look, I like adding A's to things. Okay.
This is not just any Zarat. This is a
J.
Bonzarat.
Asson. Yeah, it's
Oh,
all
he's going to
Marks
have
and
notes
Spencer.
for you, Jason. He's going to have comments.
It's good.
He absolutely is. That is hilarious. Well, Bonzrat, you are now officially known on our Discord as Bonzarat.
Yep.
So enjoy that.
Good company. Siakons and
Jason to
Bonzarat.
thank for that. And this is just, a small little flavour of the kind of banter that you can get on our Discord, I should say. So get yourself on there on our Patreon. Now, we do have 5 glorious tiers. You can just be an apologetic ramp and pay us £1 a month, or you can be a man in pig and get access to episodes like this up to 1 week early. Liam is still laughing at Man in Pig 3 years on. Incredible.
Well, it makes me laugh because whenever we go to these things and people ask me about the tiers, I can never remember the names except for Man in Pig. It's always the one.
Just be a Man in Pig.
Yeah.
And people look at you like, okay. You can also be an Inner Beast, which is when you get on our Discord. And then you can be a Sixo's Butler. And that's when you get access to all of our fortnightly mini-sodes. Lots of exclusive content on there. We've got 62, 63 mini-sodes now or something. How many is it, lads?
Oof, a lot.
That's
no,
good.
60.
66?
66.
No,
I was going to say
67.
66 famously was...
67, because the one I was editing the other day, at the start, you make a joke about how everyone survived the last
Well,
one.
we did.
All
Right,
66.
yeah. You're just giving away the free content now.
Yeah.
No.
It took me ages to work out what it was. I couldn't remember what episode it was. I listened for like 5 minutes and go, what are we talking about? What is it?
Right.
It's this one.
Which
what
one
are we
is
talking
this?
about? What was
I
it?
actually can't remember. That's the worst part now, is I
Right.
can't remember what it is again.
Now that you've been
Oh, no,
pressed on it.
I can. It was another musical themed one.
Oh, yes. Okay.
In name only. In name only.
Yeah. I got you. Well, get on our Sixo's Butler level to get all of those minisodes as well. That's really good content on there. 67 minisodes. That's amazing. And then we also have a Gold Box Classics tier when you can get access to, as well as the minisodes, fortnightly mini series, and these are on a range of topics. You've got everything from IDW's More Than Meets the Eye. We're also doing another comics one on the current Skybound comics Energon universe, so that's really exciting. We've got our ongoing Jason series on Titan's Return, which I'm very excited about. The next one of those, got to tell you.
Me too. I'm still thinking. Not made the decision yet for who it's going to
have
be.
you not?
No, not yet.
Come on,
Yeah,
man.
I've got
Come
got
on.
quite a few. Yeah, I've got 5 different options, all good.
Is it highbrow?
No spoilers. No. You have to wait and see.
Okay, can't wait. And then we've got Liam's infamous or famous, which is it? I don't know. One of the two. Tatman.
Bit of both. I mean, the last one was on the Gladiators. That'll be out by the time this goes live.
Yeah.
That was great, man.
was
That's probably my
superb.
favourite one so far, actually, of the lot
I
we've
loved
done.
it. I loved
It's-
it.
We spent most of it laughing.
Yeah.
It's a good trip down memory lane for fans of the British Gladiator series.
Yes, it definitely brought up some, I want to say, formative memories.
Fond memories, shall we say? Yeah.
There's a lot of that.
Totally. My partner could hear the pure joy of the recording that night, just from the other room as well, as I was squealing with delight that it was Gladiators. Yeah, good choice.
It was a fun one.
That was the recording. It wasn't after the recording, was it, Jason?
No, exactly.
Based on some of the things you said in that
Good
one.
God.
Oh no! And this is where I forget what I said, and then it
Well,
haunts me later on.
If you want to find out what Jason said on that recording, you're going to have to get on our Gold Box Classics tier and have a listen, aren't you? So, do sign up for all of those at patreon.com/Triple Takeover. It's well worth it.
And we also have a Redbubble. And you guys there always thinking I'm inventing these names.
You are.
I got a direct message from noted Patreon of ours and good friend Steve. You know, old Skywarp
SCS?
is
Yeah.
it? MSB,
The running man.
PS5, PSP, whatever, all them things he has after his name.
PSP. Nearly as bad
Nintendo
as
Switch.
Bonzarat.
Well,
He'll always be Bonzarat.
he sent me a message just letting me know that he is in fact Steve and he lives in Stevenage. So when I mentioned Steve from Stevenage,
No, Steve.
yeah,
Stop encouraging him.
Steve is one of the cool kids. And there you go. See?
He actually is as well, isn't
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Steve, I just want to say thank you for proving the existence here, just like we had Denzel from Washington, that letter the other week. But yeah, Steve, why aren't you buying stuff from Redbubble? Get on here, Steve. You know, you're in Stevenage. Swan around whatever landmarks they have there in a little Triple Takeover t-shirt. We've got those things you carry coffee around in.
Mugs.
Yep,
Mugs.
them. Probably a tea cozy, you know, leggings. We've definitely got leggings, backpacks.
I can't believe you've manifested this. This is unbelievable.
What about pencil cases? We got them yet?
Mouse pads. Got to have those.
Do you still get pencil cases?
Yeah,
still
you
use
do. Yeah.
stationery?
Yeah. My little boy loves them.
Yeah. Especially
Oh,
the secret
man.
compartments.
When we were all kids, did we have the Pepsi can?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
I did have one
We
of
all
them,
had that,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Didn't we?
I had the
Don't we?
pepperami, the really long pepperami one.
See, I was a vegetarian, so
Thought you were talking about your post-gladiators joy there again. I wasn't sure what was being
what,
talked
it's
about.
pepperami.
Yeah, exactly.
The pepperami, yeah.
But yeah, so if you want a pencil case, did we decide if we do pencil cases?
I think we do. I can't even remember.
Probably. If we don't, drop
Yeah.
Sixo a line. He's
Say
always
yes,
down for doing
yeah.
this stuff.
Say yes.
He loves more work. Yeah, drop him a line. Go to rebel.com/people /triple takeover /explore. There we
Nailed
go.
it.
Every
Yes.
time now. Every time.
Absolutely crushed it.
It
Yeah.
only took us 12 minutes to get to that point.
Yeah. Brilliant. And if you want to look up Steve, it's worth mentioning that he is he is on the old Twitter and whatever, isn't he?
I love Steve.
Yeah, I mentioned that because he's at Skywarp SCS, but this guy religiously posts about Triple Takeover, and we're very grateful for
Yeah.
it all the time. I said to him once, it
a
makes
good
us
friend.
laugh so much because he's always on that treadmill. He runs like 5K or whatever a day. I don't know how often he does it, but he's perennially posting pictures of himself after a run, having listened to Triple Takeover, and we're eternally grateful. So it does make me want to run even more than I do.
Run, Sixo, run.
Yeah, exactly. Run 6-0.
But Steve's a great guy. I love Steve.
Yes.
Brilliant.
Yeah, good guy.
Yeah, good guy.
I'm from
good
Stevenage.
guy. Oh God. So we're here today to talk about Supreme Class Transformers, and this, I got to tell you, is a really fascinating topic actually, because it's not just Cheetor. There are more of them out there, and this was actually suggested by our patron Billigator, who, we do minisode commissions for our fortnightly minisodes, and Billigator actually put this forward as a minisode commission, and we talked about doing it, didn't we? And we kind of looked at how it might work and all of that. And I think it was when we actually sat down and we started mapping out the toys that we were like, there's no way we're going to get this covered in 30 or 40 minutes or whatever it might be. It was
We
just
do 4 minisodes on one bloody toy, let alone how many
right.
are there, 9?
Yeah.
exactly.
Never
And
get it
we all
done.
know about Jason's propensity to talking about
As soon as-
Supreme Cheetor. So
Supreme Cheetor's included, then that's like,
well,
that's
we'll just be off.
episode in itself.
This is it. And so we decided that we would upscale it, as it were, and give Billigator a run for his money, which feels appropriate for Supreme Class. And so it's a Supreme Class conversation in a full episode, if you like. And this did surprise me, actually, how many of these are, because I remembered that there was Cheetor, and I remembered the second one. And then from there, I was sort of surprised to see, when I sort of looked into it, actually what sort of became of Supreme Class and how it's kind of been used over the years. And it's quite fascinating, actually. So do you guys know where it all kind of started?
To be honest, no, I don't actually. Not for
What,
me.
with Cheetor?
Well, it was with Cheetor. Although, I guess if you kind of go back a step, and I think this is worth mentioning, so obviously the size classes came in with Beast Wars. And to me, this is funny because whenever, I know obviously it's a thing now, you get Commander class and all of that kind of stuff and Voyagers. I regularly forget what the size classes mean. It takes me a minute, other than Titan class, it takes me a minute.
I think Hasbro do now, though, don't
Yeah,
they?
it's true.
I don't
It's so
think they
true.
keep up either.
Yeah.
Very fair comment. But it often takes me a minute to think because I'm so ingrained, or rather the old size classes from Beast Wars are so ingrained in my brain that I can always remember that they're just basic, deluxe, mega, ultra. And that has just always made sense to me, those 4 size classes. And of course, then in Beast Wars, they did introduce a 5th size class. So Beast Wars introduced all of these to begin with. It's where the size class thing started, as with so much, that was also introduced in Beast Wars. But then they introduced Super as a price class.
Yeah.
So
size
90s,
class.
isn't it? Like everything had remember like the Super Nintendo and Mega Drive, every game was Super Smash TV.
Yeah,
Super
absolutely.
Off-road, everything. But like all the comics, everything was like that. Mega, every toy was Mega, Ultra. Like the Nintendo 64 was originally called the Ultra 64. And every single toy line, every cartoon,
Yeah,
it was always
Super
Mega,
Famicom.
Ultra, Super.
Yeah.
That's so true.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah. It's funny because this was in 1998, of course, and this was Optimal Optimus. And this is the reason I'm bringing this up. Not to really talk about Optimal Optimus too much, although we should come back to that toy another time. But that was kind of conceived as like, well, we've got all these size classes, and then what if we did something that was a bit bigger and kind of extra to what we've already got and at a higher price point as well? And, you know, you can listen to, I know I mentioned a few times about Aaron Archer's pod, the Toy Armada, but it's really worth a listen because they talk about this toy quite a bit on that podcast and how that kind of came to be and the kind of conception of it all and everything. And what I thought was really fascinating about that was that, just as a kind of anecdote, was that none of the existing Transformers designers wanted to work on it. They were all like, what the hell is this? Do you know what I mean? And they had to get, you know, other people to kind of come in to design that toy because it was all like lights and sounds and gimmicks and whatever else. And the sort of robot designers, if you like, the Transformers designers were all a bit like, nah, man.
So it's like a why. Why are we doing this? And
it obviously ended up being, I believe, quite successful. And that kind of then, you know, led them to look at, okay, well, what else can we do with this kind of higher price point? But that was Optimal Optimus. That was priced at $30 when it was released. So that was a full $10 more than the Ultra price point, which I think is quite interesting because then if you fast forward to Beast Machines, what do you think old Supreme Cheetor
retailed
at in America?
35?
50?
40. $40.
Really?
Yeah, $40. Can you believe
People
that?
paid $40 for that.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean,
That's
you
a lot.
only paid £10, didn't you?
Yeah. Sealed, yeah.
And it's vintage.
Some 30 years later, or whatever it was, yeah.
The majority of forums and posts and reviews of that figure, though, say don't buy it. is the upshot of that.
Very much so. That's so $40. $40, yeah. It was introduced, and I found, interestingly, on the internet, I found a BotCon 1999 convention report. This is on toycons.com. And I've read stuff like this before. I mean, it's funny how much of this stuff has disappeared now, but I remember at the time, I remember reading stuff like this about this report from BotCon 99, where a representative from Hasbro went and talked up the fact that they were going to have this new size class, Supreme, and all of this, and that we were going to have the first toy. And people were asking how large it was actually going to be. And they didn't name the character, but they said that it would be the size of a house cat.
No.
Yeah.
That was the pitch.
I remember that story. Yeah. But that's how some of the best things happen, isn't it? Like, people get a crazy idea like that, and it's like, what is it? It's going to be the size of a house cat. And mentally, like, if you say that about a toy before you've seen this toy, you're like, actually, that's a cool idea. And that's the kind of crazy maverick idea you need sometimes. Not in this case, but I mean, the idea is great.
Yeah. The flip side of that is no one asked why.
So well, but bearing in mind that they hadn't seen it at this point, nobody had seen it. Yeah. I think, on the back of Optimal Optimus, I recall there being excitement about this prospect. And, even this blog says it was an amazing claim. That and apparently that the toys would be able to express character through details such as narrowing eyes. So
with them teeth, robots, bloody hell. Well, they got that right. Just not the right kind of character.
Yeah, it just looks a bit special, doesn't it? It doesn't quite work. Yeah.
The thing is, though, it is an amazing sort of just idea.
It's a great idea.
And it's a really logical step. Like, when you work out where Transformers were going in the time period, and it's like you've got Beast Wars are animals. And so the next step is, why don't we do it like an actual animal-sized toy?
Yep.
And these are the kind of crazy ideas. Like, now we have evolved to things like you will get, like, say, an MP3 player Soundwave. Remember when we had that music label and stuff that?
Yeah.
Stuff that is scaled and works as it should. And so a cat-sized Transformer makes loads of sense, in theory.
Yeah, I think in theory. Fun, all of this is in theory before you actually glimpse the toy. That's what you've got to think. Because the toy, I'm sure we can acknowledge, is dog. That's the thing. It's,
come on, man.
So
dude.
bad.
This toy is responsible for one of my single favourite episodes we ever did, which is that one where me, you, and Maz just laughed for like an hour at those photos. You remember those photos?
Oh God.
My God.
I was so happy to be able to kind of introduce you guys to the concept of Supreme Cheetor for the first time and just be like, look at this. And Maz had never really seen it, I don't think. That was the thing.
Did I tell him the story how I almost bought it at a car boot for like 20p once?
Oh man, 20p?
Wow. ripped off.
This was in, like 2002? Something like that. Really a long time ago. And I remember picking it up and just looking at it going, oh, this is even worse than I thought it would be.
Yeah.
And that was the only time, that was when I handled it and transformed it, moved it, and went, oh my God. And the more you look at it, it's
abysmal.
more horrifying it becomes.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was episode 40 that we talked about Beast Machines and, kind of, God, I was just in tears laughing about
was
this
it an
thing.
episode?
Yeah, it was a full episode.
Oh,
Yeah,
it was, wasn't it?
I remember listening to that and sitting there, and I owned it. I was like, how can I own it before you three? It's just like so wrong.
Well, I've bought it since. So
Yes.
there you go.
You love it. You
Yeah.
love it. One of my favourite moments of being at TF Nation last year, was you buying that.
It was hilarious, yeah. I kind of felt duty bound given that Maz the year prior had bought a Razor Beast on the back of all the hilarity about Man in Pig and whatever else. So I felt like as Supreme Cheetor had sort of taken that mantle a little bit, it felt like the right thing to do. And when Christian, bless him, who sold him to me, when I was like,
Good dude.
yeah, he's such a great guy.
lovely guy.
What? He's a patron as well.
Great dude.
But when he was selling it initially for,
40?
I think it was 40 quid he had it on for initially.
Boxed.
And
we need to tell everyone.
Yeah, it was sealed. He'd offered it to me for 20. And then I think on the final day, I just said to him, look, you don't want to go home with this thing.
So he paid you to take it.
Well, I said, I'll give you a tenner for it. And he was like, go on then, sod it. And it just, that was it. But I don't regret it.
Listeners, let me just add some detail here.
Okay, sure.
So is leaving out here is the sheer amount of times we walk past it in a circle and talked about it, and he kept saying, "Oh, I can't buy it, can I?" Like
and we
the
were
lady
telling him
doth
to
protest.
Hold me back.
It's like, I don't really want it, but for 2 days this was 2 days.
Cuddling it. We just saw him in the corner of the trader hall, hugging
just kept picking it up and fondling it, and
it's like a real cat.
Pressing the little try-me thing through the little window there, getting his little heckles up.
So happy when you finally got it. I was like, brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
It was a moment. There's a picture of me looking very, very, very tired and possibly a little hungover. I'm not sure. Just holding it, just like, why?
All these excuses you're trying to like chip in here. I was just tired. I was possibly hungover.
No, I knew what I was doing. I was in my full capacity, as it were. But tenner for a sealed vintage toy, not bad.
Well, there you go.
Totally. Yeah, and a Supreme Class one. But yeah, so this thing though, again, just going back to before it was announced, if you will, before it was revealed, I can totally see that it would have been a very exciting thing, and I remember it. I remember the buzz about it online. At the time, although I was still quite young at that time, but there was buzz about this thing, and again, even this blog says that is one that I can't wait to see how they pull it off.
Yeah, and they didn't.
Yeah.
Although, I have talked about this figure quite a lot. So, as a cat, when it's in the cheetah mode, and I like it. I do like it.
I'm with Jason. I don't like it. I'm not that far, but I think it's all right. I don't think it's terrible in cat mode. The robot mode.
I grant you, the cat mode
He's
is
got
better.
kind of quite a cool pose about him, which is so I leave him in that mode, and I'm just like, it's a cat, and it's a ridiculous colours, and it's the gimmicks on it, which we could talk in detail about later, but it's just it's proportionally all wrong. He's got a skinny waist.
Hideous.
It's hideous, and that's. But it's when you go from the cat mode into the whatever the other mode is that it's like 39 centimeter tall. So kind of getting Fortress Maximus height, but skinny.
Yeah, that was a lot of the comment about this thing at the time. I just remember endless pictures of it. Endless pictures of it comparing it to Fortress Maximus.
Yeah, it looks. You could get like 3 Supreme Cheetors next to each other and probably still not as wide as a Fortress Maximus. It's so slim.
That's really of the time, isn't it? Like that would have been the only thing to compare it to. Like whereas now, like we're talking about, we've got so many different size classes. If you see a toy and you go, you can compare it to lots of other toys from a similar class. But back then you'd be like, big toy. And the only thing to go to for people would have been, Fort Max. Like, how does it compare to that? Because that was the giant toy.
100%. I mean, that was the comparison to make at that point. And I've always found it a funny one just because stylistically they are at opposite ends of the spectrum. They are
the same.
You could not peg that these two toys are from the same toy line. the same toy
Same
manufacturer.
designers. Yeah.
You know, it's
Or not
it's like,
designers,
how
but-
has that happened? You know, where has this gone? And you know, I like the Cheetor design from the show and whatever else, but it's just the way it's translated into this plastic form with the face, with the teeth, and the kind of hollow dead eyes. And
it just becomes terrifying.
The Rob Liefeld Captain America puffed out chest, and just
the teeth.
The
When you look
teeth.
at the face, you know, like the chin strap.
yeah,
It looks like-
yeah.
It looks like he's going through Total Recall, you know, in the film when
Yes,
they have him
yes.
trapped in that chair and he's like,
really does.
he's biting down. That's what he looks like he's doing, biting
Oh
down.
my god! I'm literally looking at a picture of it, dead on, and it's Arnie gritting his teeth in Total Recall.
Yeah, when he's going back.
It needed a sound chip going, get your ass to Mars.
See you at the party, Victor.
But the thing is, it's layers of terrible because when you transform it into the robot mode, I remember on the one that I've got, I don't know if it's the same for yours, Sixo, but the panel that comes up to his chest doesn't peg in very well, so it keeps falling out and falling forward.
Oh, it's all right on mine.
It's just a bit loose. It also is just in on friction kind of bits on either side.
Yeah.
It's the mechanism. This is the funniest bit for me, is that wrist mechanism, which
Oh, it's terrible.
just is literally, because of the way you have to hold the toy, you're going to take your eye out, either with that or the missiles that are going to shoot you in the face as well. The amount of times I've shot myself in the forehead when I'm moving that toy around.
So I think,
It's a
okay,
mess.
this is an interesting point, because I think a big part of what hampers this toy, other than all of the obvious things, is the gimmicks, actually.
Yeah,
Like,
I agree.
Total nonsense on this toy.
They are. Like the hackles you mentioned earlier.
Why?
Like, you have to sit there holding it.
Yeah. They don't even stay up. And the lights at that point are pointless, because it's not even like little fairy lights almost. It's completely inconsequential, the lights. Like, unless you had a completely pitch black room, you're not really seeing
see it.
anything there, you know? And half of this thing is translucent plastic. So I can sort of again see the theory of like, right, we'll put in loads of clear plastic, you'll see the inner workings of it, there'll be lights and sounds, it'll look really cool. But it just does not
It just
work.
doesn't work. Yeah.
At all. It's dire.
As we're talking about Supreme Cheetor here, look at this photo that I found.
Oh, this is going to scare the hell out of us.
I googled Supreme Cheetor, but look at this. It's going, stop, in the name of love.
Oh my God.
You
Supremes,
break
there you go.
Oh,
It's
that-
Supremes, and I was
oh
like,
my
it's perfect.
It all ties up.
So that person who took that photo has just been shot in the forehead with those two missiles as well.
Look at the back legs. Look at the back
Look
legs.
at the teeth.
Oh,
That face, even the
horrible.
cheetah is like got a weird cheesy grin.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, I take back what I
Awful.
said. It looks terrible.
But that's what I was like, has he gone mad? I mean, look at it. But so this is the other thing. The gimmicks hamper it, but also it's the fact that the feet at no point in Cheetor mode or robot mode can actually sit solidly on a surface. So the thing is perpetually falling over every which way. One of the arms comes off all the time. Like the gimmicks in the arms as well, just to come back to that, to actually activate them. Like the one arm with the missiles, you've got to kind of bend slightly and then let go, and then it fires them. But the way it's worked, the missiles, it's completely haphazard where they're going to go. And then the other wrist, which has the shooty arm, is also the wrist that you're supposed to put the sword in. But because of the gimmick, you can't turn the wrist to have the sword pointing upwards. So he's always holding it at 90 degrees, kind of across his chest. But also, you've kind of got to have the hand sitting like kind of slightly up like that, don't you, at the wrist? So the sword is just held at the weirdest angle that nobody has ever held a sword at any time. It's a disaster.
I think it's a great example of gimmicks do not make a good toy,
Yeah.
And there's so many lights and sounds, as you said, all those spring mechanisms, all these different bits. Not very many accessories except those stupid ankle covers that I lost one of.
Yeah.
But the one thing that I maybe like is that you can use the
here we
little
go.
roller on the back of his shoulders to turn his head left and right when he's in cat mode,
Yeah.
which is kind of funny. Just funny. I'm grasping here because it's just atrocious.
It's so bad. It's like the Pimp My Ride, that meme where it's like, yo dog, I heard you like whatever on whatever, and then so we got you extra whatevers. It's that, but like with gimmicks layered into this just massive transformer. It's utterly horrific.
And $40. Wow.
And $40. So it's a fairly inauspicious start to the whole Supreme endeavor, I think, is the point I'm trying to make. But I totally agree with Liam. that I think that they were cooking with something. It went bad, but as we've seen, there was a sort of legitimate idea about having this larger scale price point, wasn't there?
Yeah, the idea is there. This is the genesis of it. Sometimes the best ideas start in the worst ways, and maybe that's what happened here. It's like the execution didn't live up to the idea so much.
Yeah.
That's fair to say. Yeah.
What I think is fascinating is that we briefly talked just recently, actually, and again, this is an Aaron Archer pod thing, but, you know, he talks a lot about how kind of coming in from Armada, and he'd worked on some of the Beast era stuff as well, not so much on Beast Machines, but hey, and he'd worked on Beast Wars, but he talked about how coming in with Armada, it was almost like a reboot to kind of get the brand ready, if you like, to kind of shop to making a movie, you know, to kind of go to producers and Hollywood and all of that and go, hey, look, we're all set up here. Like with
horror film. Is that what you're trying to do? Let's show him this. Ooh, exactly. A horror movie.
Well, I was going to say, the funny thing is that in a way you can sort of see the genesis of that with this as well, can't you? Because this is a very, or should be, a very kid-friendly, high price point, you know, big lights and sounds, lots of features toy. And Transformers had not really done that before. The gimmicks had always kind of relied very heavily on the transforming element and the characters and all of that kind of stuff. And if there were gimmicks, which of course there always had been throughout all the lines, but they were kind of baked into the character, if you like. Whereas this, to me, this was something else. This was like a proper gimmick toy in a way that Transformers had not done to such a degree. It's beyond just it being a big thing. Do you kind of get what I mean?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I think that's what, because I was going to say to you guys, like, what defines a Supreme class toy? And when you look at them, it is gimmicks. You know, it's a part of it that you can do at that larger scale. And quite often it is electronics that you can bring in because they can get the batteries in there, they can get the wiring in there, they can get the lights in there, and it gives them the space. And you can still have a really posable, really transformable figure, which makes for a lot of fun. And as Liam said, Supreme Cheeto was the first experiment in this. But without that, we then wouldn't have got the next stages. And from that, we've got some absolute beautiful, like, Supreme.
Yeah, that's fair to say. So interestingly, there was going to be a second Supreme toy in Beast Machines, as we now know, and has since been released, and that was Air Attack Optimus Primal. Yeah. And then this thing, you know, ultimately came out in RID instead. And it's funny, you know, because I always thought of this as like, my take on it, I suppose, was that they got to the kind of midpoint of RAD and Hasbro were like, okay, this is successful. And then they were like, what else have we got that is kind of sitting on the shelf, if you will, that we can just pump into this line? More recolors, more things. Let's get some of those old molds out. But actually, again, the Aaron Archer pod put a different perspective on this for me, in that he said, actually, you know, once they've done all the kind of R&D, development, testing, you know, all the molds have been made, and a toy is ready to go, it's very unlikely that a company like Hasbro, unless there's a legitimate reason and there's like something wrong with it, and they think it's going to break or it's just not suitable in some way, it's very unlikely that a company like Hasbro would just leave it on the shelf with no reason for it to go. You know, particularly if it's a new mold and they've invested in the tooling, which is a huge layout and all of that kind of stuff. So actually, the way he kind of painted it was that some of the stuff like this in RID wasn't so much just that, you know, it was 2001 and they were like, oh, what have we got in the cupboard, you know, that we can just randomly chuck out there at a moment's notice. It was more like it was always going to come out in some way or another because it was done. And it was ready to go. And it was just that Beast Machines had been curtailed so quickly that it didn't get to come out in the line that it was supposed to come out.
Supposed to be. Yeah. So this is a figure that I know nothing about at all. The Air Attack Optimus Primal.
Is this butt pillows on the neck? Is that this guy?
Yes.
Yeah. That's I'm just looking at the image. Yeah.
Have you seen it? Oh, yeah. Yes, this is butt pillows. Yeah, this is bum pillow. Yeah. So this is a real quirk of this toy. And again, we've talked about this on the Beast Machines episode because it had to be done. But this is the one where, when you transform him, his monkey bum, his big pink-red monkey bum ends up behind his robot mode head.
Convenient for flights when he's on a flight.
Yeah, exactly. It's very chill. You know, he's long haul flights. That's what it is. All the way.
That's why he's Air Attack. You know, he's just super preparedness on any kind of flight. But yeah, I don't think I appreciated this detail on the toy until I got the Encore version of this, because I didn't get it at the time when it was released. You know, because like the original just sort of skipped me by, and then later on it was like, oh, it's got GPS, and so I just never bothered with it. And then I got the Encore, And I think it was at that point that I was like, bum pillow. It really is like quite a notable thing on this toy.
Because it looks like a chonky boy there as well,
It's big.
And what are the gimmicks that we're getting on this one then?
Well, there are many. So it's got like the whole kind of key gimmick of this is that it's got a backpack that kind of fans out. And the whole idea of that is to kind of replicate his flying ability in the show. So that's why it's called Air Attack Optimus Primal, basically.
Cool.
It also has lights and sounds in this one. And again, this was one that I didn't appreciate at the time because I've got the Encore, so it's the Japanese version. But it does have Gary Chalk from...
Oh, cool.
Inside.
Yeah. Yes.
Miniaturized.
Just living inside.
Just
they've shrunk Gary
trapped
Chalk.
inside, yeah.
Free me, help me. I didn't sign up for this on this pay scale.
Yeah, exactly. God, they just booked him via Cameo. I don't know what to tell
That's
you.
it. Yeah.
An agency.
But yeah, so they got a Gary Chalk voice in it, and it lights up and things as well. So it's a very similar philosophy to Supreme Cheetor, and you can see actually how these two toys do actually work quite well together. And ironically, they scale pretty well, like better than most things in Beast Machines, which is quite funny in terms of the toys. And actually, with stuff like Night Scream, the Night Scream toy, the Ultra. That doesn't scale too badly with these. Like it's big still, but I don't know. It sort of works. But the one that actually people do say is Rat Trap. The Mega Rat Trap scales quite well with these as well, bizarrely. So they're not really meant to work together, but they sort of do.
That's one thing that I was going to say about like Supreme Class is that, and we'll come to them later, but you get your planets in this class as well. So we are jumping, Supreme covers a lot of different figures as well. And it's kind of like,
it's not a scale, is it?
Exactly. Yeah, it's
just
different.
like
it's different.
Big toy, big version of some toy.
Yeah, this is an awesome version of this toy, or a kind of,
Yeah.
And that's why I was saying about like what, when you think about what a Supreme Class toy is, for me it is that layers of additional kind of toy value, because it's premium cost as well. You're paying a lot more.
Yeah, it's a price point
now. Yeah,
it does go to show though how size classes have been twisted over the years now to fit into scaling characters, isn't it? Like larger characters go into Voyager class or Leader class, but they're still scaled with deluxes and stuff. More so than before, where it'd be like you get a Voyager version of this toy that you also get a deluxe or something like that. You know what I mean? It basically just meant bigger version of character.
Yeah,
whereas now
totally.
it's like
that's
character specific scale still with the other ones. But can I just ask you on this? That you said is Air Attack Optimus Primal and the thing on his back. Is that like a blue blast effect thing?
Yeah, it is. It sort of pops out.
But for the gorilla mode, is that really just sat on his back?
Ooh.
And the pictures, it just seems to be on his back.
It does fold away. I'd need to double check now, but it sort of like tucks underneath and kind of like clips in, and then you press a thing and it pops out. And to be honest, it's not the best gimmick in the world. Like it's not what makes the toy. So I've never really fussed with it too much. But it's an all right toy though. I would actually give this one props and say it's pretty good. Actually,
I like the look of the robot mode.
Yeah,
I think it looks
all
a lot
right.
of fun. And
it's all right.
It's like I was just reading the stats there, and it's like about 30, just shy of 30 centimeters tall. So he's
it's big. It's a big old thing.
Yeah,
I mean it's still got the perpetually molded open mouth. The shouty mouth in robot mode, which I could take or leave. Like it sort of looks like he's, I don't know, having something horrible happening to him.
Yeah, screaming.
Just one of those things. But it's
just looks in a mirror.
An all right thing. Yeah. Oh dear.
He's realised his butt is behind his head.
No.
I've got fur on the back of my head. You don't want to know where that's been in that way.
It's just past wind.
Oh god.
Someone had to say it.
Cover those receptors.
When everything is definitely not prime.
On the beast mode on his chest, is that supposed to be is that like a matrix going on?
No,
there?
it's just the design.
The design of it.
It's just the design of the look of that gorilla from the show. So, but it's really okay thing. Other than the fact that it looks a bit like it's wearing sandals, I really like it. Honestly, I kind of dig this thing, and it's definitely a good recreation of Optimus Primal from the Beast Machines cartoon, if that is indeed a design that you like, which not everybody does. But then from here, I think what's interesting is that, so this is still a 40 $40 price point. But they did reuse this in Armada before the obvious one that we're going to talk about, because Unicron is more expensive. But what toy do you think filled the $40 price point in Armada?
Is this the
In Armada, was it?
before Unicron?
Very famous toy.
It wasn't Omega Supreme?
Was it Cryotech? No.
Was it? No.
Oh, was it a Supreme toy?
Well, it's not classed as Supreme. It's called Super Base. So that might be a little bit of a clue for you. Base is one of its modes. The other one is a pair of pants.
Optimus.
Yes, the Super Pants.
Super Pants Optimus.
Oh, Super Pants.
Yeah, old Super Pants. So that was a $40 toy as well. So that, although it's not Supreme, that technically is the same price point as it is a Supreme toy. Yeah, absolutely. And that was technically the same. Well, it was the same price point as Air Attack Optimus and Supreme Cheetor.
Wow.
So if anything, that sort of continued on, if you like, that price point.
Yeah.
And then they bring in Unicron later, which was also not technically a Supreme toy, but later would be classed as Supreme. Sort of subsequent versions of the mold would be known as Supreme. And that was $50.
God.
That's a bargain, isn't it, for that figure?
I got the movie version, which was the 25th anniversary one. God, It feels like so long ago now. And that was only £55 shipped from Amazon, pre-ordered. So from Amazon in the US as well.
Right.
Wow.
This was at the time.
Yeah. So that was, was that 50? Oh, it's more than 15 years ago. It's like 19 years ago now, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's for the 40th anniversary. Oh, bloody hell. Yeah, so that long ago, I think that's what it was. I think it was either the 25th or the 30th. It was whatever it was. When they did it with the G1 head, if you remember.
Yeah.
And
totally.
It was £55 shipped from Amazon US. So.
Which, I mean, nowadays that just sounds like a bargain, doesn't it? It's
totally
hard
is.
to believe.
Yeah, I know.
Well, just when you're talking about like £200 Nemesis and things like that, and then you think that there's something like Unicron toy with lights and sounds and gimmicks up the wazoo, and it's £55 shipped, or in this case $50, at retail at this point. I just think that's incredible.
It is, because if you can consider what you get now, it's like you get a deluxe and then say a core class toy in a box set or something on Pulse, or they did those two core class Optimus and Bumblebee, and they were like 40 something quid.
Yeah.
And man, inflation is a crazy thing.
It really is quite depressing when you go back and look at what toys used to cost versus what it is now. It's.
But then you think about how long ago it is, and it is that thing of time where it's compressed and it feels more recent than it is. Because when we were kids, and like your grandma or whatever would say, "Oh, in my day, I used to go to the cinema and get a bag of chips on the bus for 2p or something stupid." Yeah, but that's, and you're like thinking like. Then you're like, oh god, ancient times. That's when the Egyptians were knocking around and all that nonsense. Yeah. But you're like, really, relatively, it was probably not too similar,
years.
Not too far off from what we're doing. Like it's like 20, 30 years.
Totally.
Didn't we work out that when G1 started, the time span between the start of G1 and the end of the Second World War is actually less time than the start of G1 and now?
No, it's about the same, because
roughly the same. Yeah, roughly the same.
Yeah.
40 years, give or take.
Yeah. That's that's kind of mad, isn't it?
Yeah,
that is
when you put it in perspective like that, and you're like, time is a funny old mistress, isn't it? It really ebbs and flows in weird ways, and it's all perspective.
Yeah, it would actually be the same time, because World War II, it ended in 44. So,
45.
Yeah, 44 to 84, and now 84 to 2024. So
40 years.
I know, 40 years.
40
there
years.
we are.
40 years.
See, with getting Unicron though. So there was like, I remember seeing it in the shop, and this is obviously the first Unicron we got. Was it? It was. Armada. It was the first one, and it was like came with that little dead end character, which is So I have the Armada version, but I remember seeing it, Toys R Us, on the shelves, loads of them, that plastic window, really cool box art.
Amazing.
He's holding Dead End in his hand as a planet.
super cool design.
Just looked amazing. It looks so good. And as you said, it was like, well, that's affordable, but it was Unicron. So I did not know why. I was thinking they should just fly off the shelves. But it was,
Well, it did well. It sold really well. I mean, all of this has got Aaron Archer's fingerprints all over it. This is the thing. And even silly stuff like the way he's holding the Minicon Dead End in the package. I'm not saying that specifically was Aaron Archer, but a lot of this is, because there's be hundreds of people involved, but this was a lot of this era is his hallmarks and things that he paid attention to and stuff that he'd learned previously and whatever. So it's all kind of from him. And it's interesting because, again, on his podcast, I feel like I'm just picking up his podcast the whole way. Just go and listen to that. I mean, why are you here? But he talked about the fact that obviously when he came on, he saw the kind of prototype from Beast Wars Neo of the Unicron that had been done for that. And that idea had never really gone away from what I understand. And that, they wanted to make that, but I think at the time it was just too fragile. That prototype, it just wasn't that viable as an actual toy. And so they had the impetus to do it. And I think at one point they were even like, could we just release this, as the Beast Wars Neo version and just put that out? And then they were like, no. And so they came up with a new design for it and everything. But again, it shows you how those ideas don't really go away. They knew that they wanted to do a Unicron. And it wasn't in the original kind of plan for Armada at all. But they were just like, let's do a Unicron. They just really wanted to do it, and they made it happen.
It's that thing, though, isn't it? That to get a figure like this, there's so many different things that need to happen so that you can build to that scale.
Yes.
And critically make it so that it can transform really well. And let's be honest, Unicron in one mode is a ball. And I remember when I transformed it to planet mode, it was like very satisfying. Yeah, there's the kind of square bit at the back where his legs kind of go. But it was still really solid, really nice. How the transparent plastic on it that shows the innards of there's all the greebly bits on it. It's just, it totally evoked the memory that I had from the movie.
Same.
It was so good.
I think, it does depend which angle you look at it from. But that's never bothered me about that toy. It's never been a point about it that I think, because the planet mode I think looks great. And it's got visible feet on the bottom and whatever, but I really think it looks fantastic.
Yeah.
But it's still a toy as well. It's not like a model or anything like that. Mm-hmm. It's got firing missiles. It's got the More gimmick that kind of opens and closes. You can put mini-cons all over the planetary ring, which is super cool.
I love that about it.
Yeah.
It takes is it like about 27? Is it him or Primus that does that? But there's tons of ports all over. It was one of the great things about Armada in general anyway, but
it was the rings. You could put the mini-cons all over it.
Yeah, that was what it was. Yeah.
I think, man, that toy, like, now it's almost lost on people, like the impact of that toy at that time.
Totally.
Like how amazing it was, how major it was. Even people who weren't into Transformers, it was like MP1. No,
nice. There we go. Hey,
we're all learning.
But it's like that thing where even people who weren't in the fandom or active Transformers, who had just seen it as a kid, they were aware of this toy.
100%.
And I remember that with Unicron. I remember going to Toys R Us specifically to find it for the first time, not to buy it, but just to see it.
Just to see it, yeah.
But a bunch of us from work all went just to be able to look at it and go, wow, this is a Unicron.
Yeah, because it was a total red letter moment. Yeah, it was an event, exactly.
I remember a friend coming around, and he works at Games Workshop, but he's very little interest in Transformers beyond the movie and when he loved it as a kid. But I remember him coming around and we were having some beers. He was like, so I hear you've got a Unicron.
Ooh.
And he was like, can we go and see it? And I was like, yeah, of course. And it was this wow moment because it was such a big part of our childhood in the 86 movie. But his scale in the movie is so big that even as a kid, like, you assume there would have been a toy, but then you were like, there wasn't. It's too big. You kind of developed a rationale for why it wouldn't exist. It's too big. It wouldn't work. And then when they finally did it, it was just like this incredible moment. And I think it's become almost lost on people now because we're so used to bigger, more, and you've got those like kick the doors down moments have already passed. It's kind of like everyone's just accepted it. But when I think back to that toy, I just think back to that time and that moment, the very first pictures of that coming out, and like just the groundswell of people just coming back in going, oh my god, they're making a Unicron. And I mean, it wasn't even that far removed. Like when you talk about it now, you're like, oh, G1, and you're like the 86 movie, and you're like thinking then it's like what, like 15 something years, isn't it?
It's so true.
Not actually that far.
Yeah, it wasn't that far. But there were old school fans coming that weren't necessarily collecting Armada, but they were buying this to go with their G1 toys. Totally. So you would see a lot of pictures at the time. I remember of like Armada Unicron posed with G1 figures.
Yep. Yeah,
man, if like we ever do an episode where you have to go through like the defining moments of the Transformers fandom of the years, for me that would be one. That'd be one of the very first.
Yeah, it would be. Like, I agree.
The first time they did a Unicron toy, because without that, like don't think you get some of the stuff that comes after, because I think that's one of those moments where they realize there's such an appetite from almost like a satellite fandom, like like a group of people who like Transformers, and they kind of dip their toe in, they kind of remember it when they were a kid, and they're willing to pick up certain like high value items or something that really hits a nostalgic moment like other things don't. And I think that's like one of the markers that MP1, certain toys, those are the ones that kind of took Transformers beyond its own fandom and beyond, like, even just not like the fandom like us, but like the fandom of, say, Armada, the kids at the time. You know what I mean?
100%.
It leapt beyond Transformers to something more.
Yeah, it did. I tell you, the thing for me as well was that it was a good example that, and okay, it's a Supreme class and it was a big toy, but it wasn't massive. It wasn't kind of ridiculously big. And it was, so as you said, Sixo, it was a fun toy. It's manageable. It was manageable. Dead easy to transform, really, actually, just folding it together and putting it and clipping in the sphere parts. I think the thing that I really liked about it was that it evoked moments from the 86 movie for me that, like just the way they sculpted his hands and how it looked.
Yeah.
And there was levels of detail like that. They had the pylons that are on there that are these big spiky pylons, and they just, the detail that needed to be there, that, when we've talked about kind of modern day Titan class figures that are just kind of missing that, like as we've mentioned about the Ark previously as well. But Unicron had that in spades. Loads of really nice detail.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's worth saying, first of all, that this isn't as big as some of those now Titan class Transformers and whatever else. So it is a different prospect. But very clearly, although it was the biggest thing of its time, not at the time, because we'd already had Fort Max and Supreme Cheetah was bigger as well. But it was an incredible sized toy. And as I said, it didn't forget that it was supposed to be a toy as well. It had the chest gimmick, the missiles.
The missile legs
bit when
are
you
great.
like the Volley's missiles. But this is the thing, like, it's manageable. And
Exactly.
I think that's become a lost art with some of these, because like the Titans,
it works.
I like, but you don't manipulate them very often because they're too big.
They're too big.
100%.
This, like you say, rightly, Sixo, it remembered it was a toy, and that's baked into its DNA. It's not trying to look identical to the cartoon.
No.
It's like, I'm a toy first that looks like the cartoon, if you know what I mean, without being like, I have to ape it exactly to the detriment of a plaything.
Exactly that. I mean, this was such a big deal that it actually, do you remember Toy Fair magazine?
Yeah.
At the time, that was a huge thing, and this made the cover. This made it very famously, and they very, very rarely put Transformers on the cover. It was not a done thing at all. Transformers was not at this point like a serious quote unquote toy line. It was a kind of off to the side. Yeah, it was very much a kid's toy line, but even then it was a kind of not one of the respected toy lines in a way. It was it didn't have that kind of cred.
It was a pop culture moment, man.
Yeah, exactly.
It really was. This was, and I just don't think people remember quite like what that is like for. I don't know, man. Like just such a wow moment. It was incredible to see that realized. There's a certain magic to it, I think, that it's very hard to capture, and when somebody does it, everybody responds.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think you've said it perfectly. So and this sort of, I guess, ushered in that new era of like, this price point really does work. I mean, this was more money than Supreme had been before, and again, this wasn't technically a Supreme toy at the time, but then like later releases of it, such as I think it was the 2008 version, as one example, have been classed as Supreme. So I think we're good to talk about this one as a Supreme class toy.
Yeah, it is class now. Because it's in my database that I like to mention.
That makes it official.
Had noted as a conqueror, but yeah, it's Supreme now. But that's the other thing as well. It's worth mentioning. It got a lot of reissues as well, repaints. That was that came out of as well, which is always a good sign of something.
Supreme in my heart as well.
But I have 4 versions of this thing, and none of them lack. None of them. It's all good. It's just a great, timeless, wonderful thing. I love everything about it, to be honest. It's one of those where even if it does have perceivable flaws, I almost don't care. I don't want to hear about them, because it's like it's sort of more than the sum of its parts in the way. It's that good.
Yeah.
Like I say, I still have the Amazon one with the G1 head, and when they did the HasLab Unicron, one of the reasons I didn't get it was because I had that, and I just looked at it and go, I'm all right with this. I like this. I'm happy with this. It's like the Titan one is cool, and it looks better. It does more things, but I was quite satisfied with what I had. I was like, that's the Unicron I need. It's manageable. It goes somewhere, and I love picking it up and moving it. And I don't think you can do that in the same way. Like I wouldn't pick up Titan Fort Max and move his legs and stuff, but with the Unicron, it's just the right size, to be able to hold and pose and just muck about with for a bit. And
they were definitely cooking at this point with this thing. So fair to say.
Just a quick mention on, because you mentioned the gimmicks as well, but it also it's quite subtle with its use of lighting. He's got his light up fist that he has, and
eyes.
And his eyes, yeah, that works really well. It's just really nice, but it's again getting that in there. It was kind of it's not needed, but it's nice to have. So
yeah, for sure. And then of course they brought it back for Energon with the black version.
That's a beautiful version. I love that version.
This was actually the one I got at the time. I didn't get the original, the orange one from Armada, although I have the Micron Legend one now. But I got the Energon one at the time, and my God, I loved it. Absolutely loved it. This color scheme is just fire, isn't it? Absolute brilliance.
It just pops. It's popping, as you would say.
It is popping.
It absolutely is. It just looks so good.
This one sat around as well, though, didn't it? This is
it
the
did.
one that
it got
sat
heavily
on
discounted.
the end of shelves and was massively discounted. Yeah,
it did get discounted. Yeah, which is probably why I ended up picking it up. But it just looks so nice. That's the thing. I guess it was at that stage where color schemes, repaints and things don't have to harken back to something from the past, which is something that we've sort of lost a little bit of these days. Every color scheme now has to be justifiable in some way, even if that justification is, oh, there was a toy from 40 years ago before Transformers was even a thing, didn't you know? Like you have to have that sort of, otherwise the collector side, they're kind of like, well, what does it reference? What is it?
Where does it fit?
Exactly that. One of the worst things that's happened in the fandom to me is this: what is the point? Where does it fit? And why? When people see a deco, that's different. Mm-hmm. But those questions, and you're like, it's a fun toy. If you don't like it, move along. It's fine.
It just looks cool.
Exactly that.
Like you say, it has to justify its existence. Like for some reason, like, why? It's a toy.
Particularly with repaints. Repaints, because we know that repaints are there to, get more use out of the mold. That should be obvious. And I never get the complaint about that, because it's like, ultimately it's funding the new molds, all of this. It's all gravy as far as I'm concerned. It's all good.
How do you get something new if you don't do stuff like that?
Exactly this. Particularly on a toy this size. Like, of course they're going to want to use it more than once, or twice, or three times, or whatever. So I just think it makes total sense. And when the colour scheme looks as good as this, this colour scheme's never actually been brought back, to my knowledge, has it? I think they did. There's a third-party one now that's sort of on the horizon or whatever. Yeah. But other than that, like, officially, it's never actually come back, I don't believe.
No.
Well, it's not really had the chance, has it? Like, there's only HasLab Unicron.
Yeah.
Since this, I suppose. And there was that little deluxe Unicron. Do you remember that guy?
Yeah. I do.
Oh, the one that turns into the little floaty spaceship. That one. Yeah, I've got that guy.
It wouldn't surprise me, if they did a HasLab version of this.
Yeah.
I don't think they've ever been ultra clear about we won't do repaints, and it absolutely wouldn't shock me if, in some format, whether it's another crowdfund thing or just, a massive Generation Selects thing, however it's done, I don't know.
Do you think, though, that something like this would work like that? Like, it was difficult for them to get the first Unicron over the line, if you remember.
Yeah.
Like, something like this is so niche, and then the price is so high. You're like, there will be people who want it, but will there be enough people to get it over the line?
That's why I say maybe it would be done as another crowdfund thing. I don't know. Maybe it won't happen. I'm just saying, don't rule it out. Is the thing.
Yeah, think at that scale as well, how that would look. Because I would quite happily have that.
Amazing.
Yeah, it'd be amazing, wouldn't it?
Could you have two of them, though? God.
Well, no, I don't have the other one, so, I'd just go for the old deco, yeah.
Has Maz got this?
So Maz does have this toy, the original, not the...
not this deco.
He's got the Micron Legend one. I think he maybe has the black one. I can't remember.
Yeah, because I'm sure he kept on about it a while ago, and I
think he's got both.
I know. I don't think he's opened it, has he?
No, I think it's just in the box. Yeah,
it's just in the box.
I remember us talking about it at some point, and I remember he was very keen on this deco.
Yeah, I think it was when he was going through a bit of a mad stage of like amassing toys in boxes, and I think he ended up with two Unicrons, both in the box. I think so. Yeah.
Well, I was just having a look there to see what's on different platforms for Armada Energon Unicrons, and not many actually. So
They still don't go for big bucks though. Like you can buy the original for. Well, look. I mean, who am I to say? Like, I always say this, and then someone's like, "That's
Someone's
not
like, "No,
true,
you can't."
Sixo." But my memory, anyway, of recent-ish times is that they were going loose for not that much money. I think it's fair to say.
There's one that's finishing in 40 minutes as we record this, and it's at £25 with no bits.
There you go.
So
there you go. Exactly that.
The thing is, man, it's probably quite a rare breed now because so many people bought them and butchered them into customs for other characters, didn't they? Because of the size, it was one of the only ways to do it, I suppose. One of the only toys that would fit.
Yeah.
So.
I think one of the issues for this, though, is that they're incomplete quite often because the actual the wings, which become part of the planet, they get lost. It's the nature and the Supreme class, as you said earlier, Liam. How many? He's got like 6 missiles on his legs as well, doesn't he? So there's a lot of parts that can just fly off and then they're gone forever. So
always remember that noise it makes.
Absolutely.
Got to go and find them. And then, of course, in Energon, we got Omega Supreme, which was, again, not technically a Supreme class toy, although he's Omega Supreme. So that's the Supremes. There you go, Liam.
the trio.
Yes,
exactly.
Yeah. But yeah, so not technically at the time, but again, I think the deal was here is that the original size classification was it didn't have one, but then it was like the final catalog for Energon came out and listed it as Supreme. So it was almost like after the fact they were like, it's a Supreme. And this came in, I think at the same price point as Unicron. I think it was $50.
Yep, that rings a bell for me because I got that in Toys R Us as well.
I got it for £2 from a car boot.
No, you didn't. Really?
Yes, wow. I did. Complete.
So I have like such fond memories of Energon Omega Supreme because when my son was really wee, he loved it to bits, and it's such a mad figure. You split him in half.
Yeah.
It's like
surprisingly simple as well. Like you literally just tear him in half.
Tear him in half, and it's like,
Tear him in what?
In half.
In half.
I did say it with a bit of a, I don't know what that was.
Tear him in half.
Tear him in half. In half.
Get down, Pit. Tear him in half.
Yeah. I don't know where that came from.
Oh, bloody hell. It's been a while since you mispronounced the word. So.
Yeah, it has, hasn't it? Well, just throw it in occasionally just to keep you entertained.
It's good.
But to be fair, this toy, though, it was the first time they brought back the Headmaster gimmick as well, wasn't it?
It was.
It did, yeah.
And it's almost like a secret gimmick, isn't it? Because it's not a big part of the show, and it's not
they don't
really
big it up.
called out much. Yeah. And this toy, man, I just remember getting it, and like Sixo says, being fun to tear him in half.
In half, tear him in half.
All of his modes are cool, like a space train.
Space train.
It's very of the time. It's very, again, like a Energon Optimus is very Power Rangers.
Yeah.
This has very Power Rangers.
It really does. It really does. You can see it's taken a bit of inspiration from that kind of stuff.
But it also, do you remember, like when we were talking about Tidal Wave a while ago, and this is a really good figure for just lots of really nice spinny turrets that have the control, and they are just great fun. You're just spinning them around and you can totally imagine like laser beams.
It's almost very old-fashioned Diaclone with the little weapons and stuff like that, like the little guns and those kind of old super robot toys. But it's amazing how posable he is despite not having joints. He's still really posable.
It's a great looking toy. That's the thing. The robot mode looks superb. It is posable. It's gimmicks everywhere. It's just great, and like you look at it and you think,
on this.
Yeah, we absolutely should. I was just thinking that actually. Yeah, let's because there's so much to say on this one. I think to do it justice, it's got to be a mini-sode.
Yeah,
but it's to me it's good because it's you look at it and you think it's Omega Supreme, even though it looks nothing like the original Omega Supreme, literally nothing like it, but it still has that vibe to it. So, do you want to know something really cool? You mentioned about the Headmaster. Do you know what the Headmaster himself, the little robot, what do you know what it looks like?
In reference to someone?
Yeah, it's a nod. It's a Transformers nod. Very cool one.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
God, I ages I had it. Who's it? Go on, tell us.
It's Omega Supreme. The action master.
Of course it is.
Yeah. It's a tiny little, very random, tiny little Omega Supreme from the Action Master Elite.
That's so cool.
I mean, what is that doing in there? It's just incredible.
So I always remember. So when I looked at the headmaster part, because the little visor bit comes down, and that's what gave me the nod to the original G1 Omega Supreme. But I didn't know about that link to that character.
Yeah.
And I just, I'm looking at the image of it just now.
Have you got one, Jason, of this?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Because it's got like the big grabby hand on one side as well. You push a lever and it kind of comes out.
It's like the toy machine, isn't it? It's like picking up the prize.
Yeah, exactly. Just so good. It's got it's got bits from there's so much going on. It's got a few things that kind of remind me of Fortress Maximus as well, because it's got that transparent bit on his shoulder, like a little lift area.
That's a fair assessment.
It was a turret that's on his top left shoulder that was the one that it's really satisfying. It turns around, but you can also shoot the missiles out of it.
Yeah.
Just so much going on, and he's got light and sound as well. Brilliant.
I also love just whacking Optimus in the middle of this thing and just kind of like sealing him back up again. And I just think it looks great. I know it's ridiculous, and for some reason, people really kind of have a very passionate dislike for this particular gimmick and like the way that Optimus combines with things in that mold.
The power link part,
it's just cool. So much fun. It's great. It's just pure unadulterated joy as far as I'm concerned, the way it all works.
But that was the thing that went with Armada as well, is they had a lot of really cool stuff going on. They had the mini cons, they had the cyber keys, they had the power link. There was a lot in this line that kind of went across loads of different things, and they were just made for even more fun. And then beyond that, the gimmicks that were on each one as well. I always like to talk about the packaging, but this did the same thing Unicron did as well, because it was same kind of style, really cool image of a cartoon drawing of Omega Supreme, but then an actual image photography of the two alt modes.
Yeah.
And then the massive, going right up into the top of the box window so you could see him inside, which again, when you went into the toy shop, it looks so good.
It still looks amazing in box, even now, this thing. Like, I think it's one of those where you see a listing for it or whatever, and it is just, it's a showstopper, honestly. The Omega Sentinel repaint as well, which, I would love, but where are you going to put it? It's that looks great too,
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Just really good.
The platinum version that was in the G1 Omega colours, it's got the claw hand and the G1 head, but in it, incredible that to think that to this day, the headmaster that he comes with is still probably the most articulated headmaster we've ever officially got, isn't it?
That's right.
He's got ball joints, shoulders, he's got legs, actual individual legs and knees that can move sides.
Legs.
Yeah, whereas they're always like stuck together. Even the modern one's still a bit like that, but yeah.
Amazing.
But he's like a G1 mini Autobot size. He's pretty tall, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, I love doing that when you take two toys that should never be sort of thought about in the same sentence together, but then you compare them and you realise that actually they're similar heights or something like that, and it's like, what? How does that work? Absolutely. It's someone recently, the best one I saw recently, this is totally off topic, but someone posted a picture of the new Legacy animated Bumblebee, and they posted it next to the Activators animated Bumblebee from back in like 2008 or whatever, whenever it was released. And did you know that the new one, the Legacy one, is slightly shorter?
No.
Wow. Really?
Oh, wow.
How does that work? Like, what?
We've had inflation. This is deflation.
You're right. It makes no sense to me, that. But
no.
So it goes.
I would have never expected that. Well.
The Transformers will return after these messages.
Right, well, it's that time for the part of the pod where we talk about our sponsor, and that is tfsource.com. So do check them out for all your Transformers and third-party needs. And as ever, we've taken a quick look at their website to see what it is that they've got in stock and available for pre-order right now. And something's caught our eye, hasn't it, gents?
Yeah, it's shuttling on past.
Very nice. Yes, indeed. It's Fans Hobby Skyflame, which feels kind of appropriate given that we were just talking about the Unicron trilogy, weren't we? So this is a third-party take on Armada Jetfire.
Yeah.
The original toy is a classic. This looks cool too. It's a neat-looking toy.
He does. He's a nice chunky boy, isn't he? I really like that robot mode.
Yeah, I really like it too. It's funny because you've got to bear in mind that a lot of these pictures are obviously of the non-finalized thing.
Yeah, it's prototype, isn't it?
Yeah, they're of the prototypes. There's a couple, I think. The kind of initial picture before you click on it, the thumbnail or whatever, that's the finished thing with the gold paint and everything on it, and it looks really, really good. Yeah. So you've kind of got to use your imagination a little bit here, don't you?
to the land of imagination.
It's just a really nice. Look at that, like that massive big. It looks like a ray gun. His whole thing, which is like in the second image, and I absolutely love it.
Well, it's quite faithful to the original toy,
It is,
actually,
yeah.
and which I guess in turn was also looked a lot like the cartoon, or the cartoon looked like the toy, I should say. But so they've done a good job in that respect. But it looks fantastic, I think. Like, I'm well into this. This is a character I really like the look of, anyway, and the design of. So I think this is going to be fascinating to see.
From the very first moment I saw Armada, this was the thing that caught my eye when it first came out, was Jetfire. Just this design is perfect. I have a thing for space shuttles. I've always had a thing for space shuttles. So this toy, man, was always one that caught my eye. And I finally got it at TFN, that first one I went to.
Oh, yeah, of course. Because, it was the one, it was in the bag, wasn't it? Someone handed it to you in the bag.
But this thing, man, like, it's such a nice update for Jetfire. Something so different, but with just the right kind of elements to it that are the same. You know what I mean? Like the colours, and gorgeous figure.
Have you seen as well? So they've done it. Fansub have done it so that you can combine it with Prime as well.
Oh,
That's what the original did.
That is amazing, and I want this quite badly.
Pants.
That just looks so good.
Have you got the Prime? Have you got their Prime?
I don't actually know.
It's good.
It's
really, really good. Yeah, it's well worth a look.
Looks lovely. Looks so cool. I just love that look of a robot that's absolutely covered in just missile packs and giant guns, and it's just so over the top. It's absolutely brilliant fun. Really nice.
I think they've really hit a stride with their kind of Unicron trilogy designs, and to be fair to them, they were doing this before the legacy and all of that turned back onto this era of Transformers. So they really kind of were slightly ahead of the curve there in that regard.
Their design style really suits this era of toys, doesn't it?
Does.
It's always had that chunky, blocky look, and it really shines here. This is where these are the toys it was meant for.
I think so. In a way, more than their G1 designs, even.
Oh, yeah.
I think it sort of comes into its own here with that slightly more stylized take. And I think because Unicron Trilogy feels like a stylized interpretation of G1 in its way anyway, the fact that Fans Hobby then is quite stylized, it sort of really works for me, I think. But so this is going to combine with their Prime and become the Super Pants, which is super cool. And then if you've got the Overload, thank you.
Overload,
yeah, I was getting too confused. Then you can have that as the kind of shuttle transport with this on the top of it as well.
Amazing. That's brilliant.
Fantastic.
I love that.
Just like the original.
Yeah. Really cool.
I'm really eager to see more. I love it. I think it's great.
Yeah, same. So I will definitely be picking this up, I think. So, and checking it out. So can't wait for that. And I presume the full thing will be pretty massive. So that'll be it'll be quite the thing to see.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that is available for pre-order now on tfsource.com. So do check that out. And besides that, they've got lots of lovely other toys in there as well. They've got a Unicron. They've got the third-party Primus up there as well, I noticed. Tidal Wave currently up for pre-order. So lots on there. Do check it out. tfsource.com for all your Transformers and third-party needs.
We now return to the Transformers.
So for me, one of the figures that I absolutely love from Armada was Primus, because he had, what was it called? It was like a massive cyber key, wasn't it?
It's a cyber planet
Cyber key power.
It was the Omega Lock. That's what it was called.
Oh, right, yeah.
So this is like, now we're getting into like supreme figures in my mind, which is you can introduce,
that's the topic.
Well, exactly, yeah, we're on brand. But that big chunky bit of plastic, but you had to, if you remember, you had to plug it in to the figure to unlock Primus to get into different modes, which, a bit of a nod back to Power Masters as well. Was it necessary? Probably not. Was it fun? Yes, it was.
I'd forgotten that, actually, but it was like a big, you're right, it's like this huge, you have to plonk it in like a hole and then turn it, don't you?
That's right.
And it kind of unlocks the whole planet, the whole transformation, everything.
It just seemed really funny.
Primus, more than Unicron's toy, makes no sense if you try to rationalize it, because Unicron's has lots of missiles that are sort of hidden inside him, aren't they? There's not overtly rocket launchers or anything like that. Whereas Primus has giant guns, and you're like, Well, he's a giant planet robot. What's he shooting them at?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, just even looking at this toy now, none of it really makes sense. Like it's just bonkers.
There wasn't really much reference though when you think about it, was there? You know, that was it. It's kind of like it's because the thing is, it's got nods to Cybertron, obviously, and
well, that's what he transforms into. Is Cybertron, isn't it?
So the greebly bits.
It's got like a icon and stuff like that.
Yeah, which again I loved. These little tiny versions of it that were really nice.
I love this toy. I really it's another one where I remember having it and then having the was it the Last Night version where they did it in
Yes.
So the mad colours. It's very G2.
I loved that version. That was actually the first version of this toy that I got, believe it or not. I never got this at the time and just completely slept on it. And then I finally got the Last Night one, which a lot of people called, Generation 2 Primus and things like that, the kind of orange and blue. And I loved it.
Yeah,
it's gorgeous. Cool. It's stunning deco. I think it's nicer than the original one. Like just the colours on it are beautiful. But the original one's all right. It's the planet mode as Cybertron. I don't think works as much because you kind of have that white band around the middle.
Yeah.
It's kind of...
Oh yeah, I'd forgotten about that. Yeah.
I always like the stand it has, like the little feet.
The little feet that just pop out. Yeah. It's so
bouncing
cool.
in space.
Yeah. Because this is like a real ball, like in comparison to Unicron, which had a sort of flat side, as you say, and did sort of stand on its own in a weird way.
Flat arse.
It sat on its back almost, didn't it? And sort of faced upwards. This, you needed the feet, otherwise it just roll around, I guess. It is a weird one. I appreciate the level that they went to with it to make it look like a sort of, or evoke, I suppose, the classic cartoon design of Cybertron, because it's got the little spires and it's got the little craters and things as well in it. So it's definitely not one-to-one in any regard, but I don't know, it has all the right notes to it.
Yeah, it was that, wasn't it? Because we got a Unicron, so we needed the Primus to stand next to each other. And I actually got the Unleashed version of this, which comes with the Unicron head. That's like, the kind of ripped apart skull head, which is probably one of my favorite things in my collection, actually, because it's just a really quite hideous. It's like half of it's from the end of the movie, obviously, and it just it matches that. But he's got all these kind of little tentacles coming out from his neck, and then half skull with like this glowing green eye. And Primus can hold Unicron's head in his hand as well. But it was
nice.
A nice little addition to it as well because it matches up with the Unicron toy.
Yeah,
it's very cool.
Have you seen the battle station mode on this?
Yes.
No, I've not. No,
it's hilarious.
Is this a fan mode? Is it?
I think it's a legit thing, or at least on some of the versions. Yeah. I've just posted a picture in our chat. There you go. This is the picture is the 2010 version.
Yeah.
I just found it on the wiki.
I've always been fond of this deco.
Yeah, I like this one.
The grey.
I would like to get this one. This one.
It's like the battle station mode. It's cool for a kids thing, isn't it? It's like just crazy nonsense because you're like, it's already a planet with cities and
what
guns popping out of it.
What is going on?
What's it doing? It's a battle station.
Yeah, or millions of robots on it. Just like what's the f*** happening, Joe?
Earthquake.
It's like the city of London suddenly deciding it's a Woolworths. Why? Jesus, it's crazy.
It is hilarious.
But I like the flip out guns and the handle when you put the Omega key in. It's a fun toy. I think between them, Unicron's more fun as a toy with the gimmicks and stuff.
I think it works better.
It's
cool.
It works better.
It does.
I love the giant arm cannons on the arms. I'm always fond of when robots have that. Like, it's kind of cool.
Yeah,
even if here you're like, why would he have them? What would he do with them?
It is hilarious the way they just pop out of the planet mode. Like, it's
totally.
Absolutely ridiculous.
Imagine that, like just flying up. Surprise!
Exactly. Especially knowing that, like how many millions of robots have just gone with it. It's just like Asia has suddenly popped out of the earth and there's a massive gun
fired away.
Imagine just flying in and being like, Emily, I don't think we're clearing customs. Seeing these cannons pointing at us, bloody hell.
It is hilarious. Yeah, I'd forgotten about the pop-up arm cannons. They're really good. They are. It's full of,
very
full of
satisfying.
guns and stuff in it. Yeah,
it's a wicked looking robot. Absolutely wicked looking robot.
I was always a bit uncomfortable about his feet because they always...
I was just going to say,
they're just not as good, are they, as Unicron?
It's just because he's got to turn into circles, though, hasn't he? Like, Unicron doesn't have that as much as this guy does. He's very round. And
there's a slight feeling with the feet of like, I probably had another solution to begin with, and then something budgetary happened, and they were like, "This will have to do." It's sort of got that vibe about it.
It's like they went, "Lads, what can we do?" And someone went, kickstands.
Yeah.
Yep. Let's just give him kickstands for feet. That'll do. It works for bikes.
Just
Yeah, exactly.
a little panel fold out the front, which is a foot now. You know,
That's it. It's a very tiny toe. You know,
a suggestion of feet. Yeah,
exactly.
It's a weak part on an otherwise really nice robot mode, I think.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what I love about this Primus is the head sculpt.
Yes,
it's really nice.
Yeah,
really nice, really solid.
And it does look a little bit anyway like the character from the comic.
It does,
which I always think is kind of cool.
Yeah,
and they kind of took that nod because, of course, we first saw Primus ever in the Marvel comic. Totally. I want to say it was issue 60 of the US? of the US run anyway. So I can't actually remember the number for the UK run, but I remember reading it and just being like, oh my god, there's a big face in the center of the planet.
I love that bit. Amazing. Yeah, absolutely cool.
But I never took it to mean that meant that Cybertron could transform. That was never my understanding of it.
Yeah, I always took it as they'd hidden him inside.
Yeah.
That's what it was for me.
Well, I always took it like the planet had sort of formed around him.
Exactly.
Like it's kind of extended as he'd grown, and that's what he turned into. And he's kind of a bit like Vector Sigma is just like the core of the planet. That's,
exactly that.
That's what we should do a mini-sode on.
What of
at some point?
A Primus? Yeah. Well, let's come back to this one more for a mini-sode for sure. Yeah.
But this toy is fantastic, and I always wonder if we'll see this as a HasLab at some point, like when they redo it as actual Cybertron, to try to get more like it. But again, there's just something about this that's very toy-y, and there's an appeal to it. Like some of these things, you can't, you can't replace accuracy with what they actually feel like in your hands, if you know what I mean. Like there's a tactile nature to them where you just want to like click this and move things and play with it. And you're like, if it was super accurate, I don't think you'd be as interested.
Yeah, it's a funny one, the HasLab Primus idea, because it comes up all the time, and I understand why, because I think people are convinced, people like the kind of the logical side of it, they've done Unicron, so of course they're going to do Primus, it goes together. I even had someone the other day saying about, they did Starsaber and then they did Thesaurus, so it makes sense that Unicron would also get his kind of nemesis. And I'm just like, yeah, but it doesn't make that much sense because, Unicron is such an iconic character all the way back to the 86 movie, way before Primus was a thing, especially in toy, like a transformable Primus, even in toy form. That came much later, this toy. And I don't think that Primus as an idea, Cybertron maybe, but Primus does not have the same appeal that Unicron does, especially because Unicron has those roots of like never having been a toy at the time, and the whole kind of mystique of it and whatever else.
Unicron's a character, though, isn't he?
Yeah,
well, that's it. That's
a real
the difference.
Personality. And
yes,
he's such a major character. He's so iconic, and he's another one of those things that almost transcends the brands. Everyone knows what Unicron is, and he's just this big figure. Whereas Primus, there is a character, but it's very lightly
a blank
touched
slate,
on,
though.
It's totally.
That's what I mean. It's very minor character. It's a large character, but very minor personality.
That's the thing, and it feels like if they did a HasLab, it wouldn't be a reference to the 86 movie or any of that. It would be a nod back to this toy, and that is
it's not enough.
No,
it's the Titan class, isn't it?
Exactly.
That's what it kind of feels like.
Yeah,
like the Ark, it's that kind of
exactly
something, and then just chuck a robot mode in there somehow.
Yeah.
Do you know? For me, it's actually that in the kind of, if you want the lore and what I have from Transformers and reading the UK comic back in the day, is that Primus was the Transformers. That was the whole point. That's what the
kind of essence of.
He'd created the Transformers to combat Unicron, and that was his purpose. So him being the all-powerful being to go and fight Unicron, it's like, well, no, that's what the Transformers are, and they're all supposed to be fighting together, and that's the story.
That was certainly the original comic. That was
to have him as a big kind of character, as Liam says, he doesn't have that same gravitas and importance within that.
Yeah.
With Unicron, people don't live on Unicron. Can you imagine if you lived on Cybertron? And suddenly starts transforming, like you're just there, you're going for your morning jog, getting a cup of coffee, and suddenly there's freaking knee things coming out of somewhere, fingers, and you're like, bloody hell!
Give me some warning.
All the stuff I got on my shelves. You're like going, oh, that's all the silverware coming out the cupboards, all the china's broken on it, it's on my plate.
Yeah, Unicron's won basically as soon as you do that, isn't he? That's the reality.
Yeah,
very inconsiderate. No one really stays asleep all the time.
I just think maybe they'll do a HasLab. I'm not ruling it out. I don't think it's a guarantee. People are treating it like it's a guarantee that it'll happen, and I really, really don't think it is.
I reckon we would see a reissued version, the recolor of Unicron before we saw Primus, in my mind.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that's more likely, for sure.
I think there's a degree of interest that this would need to generate to propel itself to fund, and I don't think a Primus would have that.
No,
for the price, because if Unicron was £600, this would have to be the same size.
Well, exactly. That's the thing.
And
would have to be another £600 Transformer.
Yeah, and people aren't going to pay that.
I think this is a sub £200, maybe a Titan class character. I think would sell of this, and I don't think it would generate enough interest for.
So I would buy that and buy a Titan class version of Primus because they could have a lot of fun with that. I reckon.
Yeah, I guarantee you Hasbro have looked at it. I guarantee you they've looked at it and considered it. But they must have sales data still of what this toy sold originally versus the original Unicron, even and all of that. I'm sure there's lots of thought gone into it. But yeah, I'd be surprised. So
I think if they were to do a HasLab Cybertron, I think personally I'd rather just have the Planet Cybertron and then something we could pull out and you could see the face like the comic.
That'd be cool.
That would be super cool.
As a reference.
Yeah. That would be super cool.
I think I'd rather have a Cybertron rather than a compromised Cybertron and a robot that isn't anything really. A reference to this.
Yeah, was it in another episode you said, Liam, about like as a playset? If you had that as a playset, that would be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So that you were like, kind of bringing it in. That would be pretty cool.
That would be brilliant. But of course, this Primus, the original one, which we will come back and talk more about this character another time, I think. But this wasn't the only Supreme toy in Cybertron, was it?
That's true.
No.
There's another Maniac with a crown as well,
yes.
which is probably my favourite bit about it. So yeah, Supreme Starscream.
Yeah. Now this toy is bonkers, isn't it?
Yeah, this is wild.
It's the easiest transformation in the world as well. Fold him together, done. It's like and enormous.
Yeah, I just love the size of it. And I've only ever seen this in hand. Well, I've seen it in hand a few times, I guess, but I've only ever seen it up close, like in the box or kind of at conventions, like on, when it's sort of sitting there. I think there was one at TFN, a loose one year, and kind of checking it out then and whatever. I've never owned it. And
really?
No, never.
Oh my God.
I've owned it.
Man, so I have, and I bought one the year of some animal or other, horse, maybe something like that.
Yeah,
from goat, I don't know, chimpanzee, something like that. Year of the chimpanzee. Let's say that.
Yeah, I can't remember now.
Year of the badger. I think it was year of the badger.
Did it not come out when that Prime came out? Yeah, I'm sure it did.
But my girlfriend's nephew was massive into Transformers at that time. He was a little kid. He was into Transformers Prime, all these things, and I was like, oh man, he would love that. So, and the only place I could get it was from a Toys R Us in Derby, and because I don't drive, I got friends to give me a lift, but he would only do it if he could take photos of me stood outside Derby County's football ground. And he posts them every year. It comes up, he reposts them of me looking miserable out there. But that was on offer. That was like £20. But this toy, man, I can't believe you never owned it. It's incredible. It's just huge, and like
it's huge.
What it does,
clicky.
Yes, and it's the one that feels the most in the spirit of Supreme Cheetor, because
I was going to say that.
It's big for the sake of being big.
That's its entire reason.
Yeah.
It
doesn't
it's
fit
not like a planet.
anything. Yeah.
No.
Yeah, like it's not Energon Omega where he's a giant planet thing or whatever. This is just a character made big for the purposes of making a big, fun, stupid toy, and it is fantastic. And I think it's the first time we saw the crown, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was. Yeah, that's right.
First crown toy.
Starscream toys come with it all the time now. Yeah.
I bought it for that exact reason because I thought, oh, that's cool. But the reason, so I got rid of it though, actually. And the only reason was it didn't fit anywhere. It just was kind of like,
Yeah.
This is just a massive Starscream,
Kept Cheetor though, Jason,
in a box in the loft. Does that count?
Him. You got rid of this
one.
Get
rid of a pet.
You kept Cheetor.
This is where you see him appear in the background.
Yeah,
just like, what's that behind you?
Just saying, that says quite a lot, doesn't it? It's a real statement of intent in that.
Cheetor's the beginning of the Supreme class, so there's a legacy. But I have literally two Beast machines. Yeah,
but this is one of the best designs of Starscream ever, anyway.
Yeah,
and to make it this big, like whenever I go to Emmy's nephew's stuff, like we'll play the PS5 in his bedroom now and on whatever game, and bits of this are still in old toy boxes. He's like a teenager, has no interest, but I'll just see like the legs sticking out of a box in a corner that's like been shoved away, long forgotten. And it just reminds me of it. It's just really funny because like it's just a magnificent beast. That's what we'll call it.
Yeah, his toes are bigger than G1 Bumblebee lying down. You know
what? Is that right?
Yeah,
that's a good. Oh man,
it's really they're just.
This is about 1.5 warpaths, maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. Yep, there we go. That's
the
it.
scale. We need to do that ruler, the Warpath scale.
Yeah, the Warpath scale.
But it transforms pretty much like the other one, doesn't it? Like the Voyager size one.
Yep, it is. It's a wee bit simplified, but it's nigh identical. You're right.
I love that it gets more simple the bigger it gets.
Well, that's the thing.
It has to accommodate the joints, isn't it? That's the thing. Like,
the chunk, hilarious.
I don't think I've ever experienced ratchets quite as ratchety as well, you know, because it's quite hollow plastic, isn't it, Liam? You know, so when you move it, you really hear it. It like echoes.
Ironically, also the ratchets in this toy are actually bigger than the G1 ratchet toy.
That would be accurate.
Oh, God.
I'm not sure that's true.
Let's open it and find out.
Someone's going to quote you and go, well, actually.
Yeah, they're going to size comparison. No, I'm surprised I don't own this. I think that, it might need to happen. There was one at TFN, oh, God, a couple of years ago. It's like 40 quid? Sealed or in box or something?
I think Teach got that, didn't she?
I think she did, Teach. Yeah.
This is one you should get for 7.0. This is like a really good kids toy, man.
That's a good
just
idea.
Like a proper WoW toy.
That's a good idea.
I'll be honest though, I wouldn't spend a lot on it. It's it's not worth a lot of money.
No, it's not. It's not a valuable toy. No.
Yeah,
but it's so unique. I think that's it's like it doesn't fit into any category or anything. And that's what makes it so wonderful because it's just a ginormous version of a character. Like you think about the amount of scales of Optimus Prime we get, but like I don't think we got an Optimus Prime like this ever.
No, never. No, because I'm thinking as well. Like I was looking at in the robot room the other day, and Trypticon, and the Titans Return Trypticon, and height wise, Supreme Starscream was pretty close to that, particularly with the crown on as well. So he was a tall boy. But I always wanted to try and get a photo going from my world's smallest Starscream all the way up to that one. And it was an impossible task with the camera that I had at that point. I didn't have enough space to be able to do that, to go through all versions. And the last jump, have you ever seen that video where it shows you like all the different stars in the universe? And it just gets more and more ridiculous. You know, that's what Supreme Starscream is at the end. It has to pull out so far that you're basically seeing a universe behind him. Yeah, it's he's silly but fun.
It's mad.
It's also like one of the only versions of this character where you can move the guns, on his chest. Like the little,
that's right, yeah.
Oh, they flip up.
You can actually pivot them up, whereas you can't on the other versions.
Oh, man. That's, Well, that sold me on it, if nothing else. There you go.
And the year of the, I don't know,
Badger?
The year of the Tumbleweed version. Yeah, the year of the Water Vole. That one.
Good God.
The colours on him are very like a...
It's G1.
Yeah, but they're almost like Marvel-y, in the brightness of the blue. It's
that's true, actually.
Right.
That's true.
He's got the yellow shouldery circles.
You do see that that Platinum version one, that comes up quite a lot, doesn't it?
It does. Yeah, it does. Yeah, it's still around. And he's not difficult to get.
No.
So.
I'm intrigued now. You've sort of got me there maybe with the 7.0 idea. I don't know, something to think about.
It's a really fun thing to, mess with a kid, kind of share a kind of hobby. It's just...
Yeah,
really simple, really fun.
Yeah.
Because they're wowed by it and you can kind of be like, well, it's this character. And it's just a little bit of fun.
Yeah, and maybe it'll be a TFN tradition, pick up a massive, ridiculously oversized toy for cheap. C'est la vie,
And then for a year have regret.
Yeah, exactly. And they just have it sat there the whole year round, just like, why? Why did I do
Why
this?
Why do you torment me?
Yeah, exactly.
Transformers.
Well, moving on from Starscream then. I mean, all of these toys, I think, have got fodder to come back and talk more about at some point. But it's just interesting to compare them because this size class of toy is just, what is it?
It's a bit mad, isn't it, when you think it? Yeah.
Big time.
It really is.
And the variety of kind of success and then not so successful that you get from them.
Well, we're sort of coming to the end of it in a way because... So for the first movie, they didn't do any Supreme toys. They had leaders for $40. which is interesting that Leader came in at a price point that Supreme was originally, because it started at $40 before it climbed to $50, and then obviously it kind of went up from there. But so the fact that they had Leaders at $40, but then no Supreme toy is kind of interesting to me a little bit, because I think although there is a sort of consistency in the naming sometimes, like calling these toys Supreme, they've got bigger whilst other toys have kind of filled in. If that sort of makes sense.
Yeah.
So there was that. And then really we come to animated, in 2000 and, well, I want to say 2008, probably by the time this thing was out.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it? Yeah.
And this is the Optimus Prime.
I love this figure. I think he's so fun. He's a big boy, isn't he? He's like a really big Prime boy.
It's absolutely gigantic. I can't.
Yeah.
I mean, again, this is one I don't own, so,
doesn't fit with the other guys very well, but the gimmick on this one, which works very well, you can zoom it around in alt mode. Yeah, so you zoom it around in alt mode, but when you press a button, it activates a gear inside, which then just spins Prime around, and he slowly automorphs into just his upper body. You then have to manually flip out his legs.
I was going to say, because it is just the upper body, isn't it, that transforms?
It's kind of, it gives me little movie vibes when he does his transformation, and then you don't get the backflip and him shooting, unless you do that yourself. But it's just so over the top, massive, like kind of beefcake Optimus Prime. And I love that design of him as well.
He's quite beefcake, because even just looking at pictures of it now, it's weird because it actually looks less like the cartoon than the Voyager in a weird way.
It does,
the proportions, really everything. Yeah. It's not the same as the cartoon, whereas it really feels like because we talked about this in our animated episode, the last episode that we did, that they made a lot of these toys in tandem with Cartoon Network, kind of back and forth and everything. And it's quite clear that it was the Voyager of Optimus that was the one that was kind of based around the cartoon sculpt and vice versa, whereas this is something else.
It totally is. And until when we were doing that chat as well, because I don't have the Voyager, and the Supreme version of Prime, it doesn't really fit, obviously, within kind of all the other figures that I have. He's not posable. He's got this kind of spring-loaded arm on one side as well for kind of punching effect. He has one of the best weapons, which is that the axe that the blades collapse into, which has got a really satisfying kind of, when you slot it into his hand, it flicks the blades out.
Yeah, that looks cool.
The spring-loaded action. How I missed those things.
But it's pretty simple. He's got voice, and his little faceplate moves up and down.
Yeah, it's David Kaye in the voice, isn't it?
That's right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it does though. The kind of resting faceplate position though is kind of slightly down, so it looks a bit odd. So it doesn't quite, it doesn't. It looks like it's either falling off or he's about to say something. It's a bit weird. But irrespective of all that, just that auto transforming kind of part of it is it's just really satisfying when you just trundle it along, and then you've got Prime just in front of you, lying down.
There's no non-faceplated face on this one, is there?
There isn't. No. Yeah.
See that again? That's weird because the Voyager does that.
Yeah, it's because they did the gimmick.
Yeah,
it's because they did the gimmick that it moves when you press the button.
It's weird to me. This price class, whatever you want to call it. It's weird to me when you have smaller toys that do things that then this larger size doesn't. It's like that they couldn't incorporate those things, and there's always a reason for it. But this, to me, I know you like it, and I'm not saying that anything to kind of detract from that. But it's strange to think that by including some of these gimmicks, they've taken away things that the smaller toy can do, like the articulation and things like that.
Yeah.
That's an odd one to me.
Yeah, I would agree. And the thing is, it's like, because as I said, I don't have that Voyager. And having talked to you guys about it, I feel that's missing now, because this is the only version that I'd ever played with previously.
Right.
But I think this is a good example of a Supreme that when you put the gimmicks in, they just purely went for that automorph transform, and that was the thing. That was like the selling point, because beyond that, there isn't much else,
Right.
It's always felt like this was the one of them that's targeted at a slightly younger age.
I was going to say, yeah.
It's the rollout command one, isn't it? And it's all the gimmicks and stuff feel like it was intended to be that Christmas toy for a certain age crowd who are more about being wowed by toys, like we would have been as a kid. You know, you're not there thinking of like articulation and accuracy as much as you are like, wow, ginormous, cool toy and stuff. Like when we got Metroplex, the first thing we thought of wasn't like, does he look exactly like he does in the cartoon and does he move like this way or that way? It was like, oh man, he's got all these bits you plug in, all these gimmicks. He's got this spring-loaded thing that shoots a car out of his nipples. He's got all of this kind of like swiveling guns in his other nipple, all that sort of weird sort of stuff. And I think that's what this is going for. And I think it's one of those things that we often forget when we look back and people are like, oh, you know, he doesn't have this, why did he do that? And it's like, it's because they want it to be fun for little kids, some of these things. And this is the one of these toys, of the big toys we spoke about, that really feels like it's particularly geared for that. Like all of them are to a degree, but this one of them all feels like it's that.
I 100% agree.
It's interactive, big figure.
Yeah, it is.
It's absolutely going for younger kids. Slightly, you know, like almost that if you were slightly older, you'd have the Voyager, but this is like, you know, for
simple.
I nearly sort of said it's a bit play school there for a minute, and I didn't.
It does have a vibe about it. Yeah, it does.
Dropping the offensive terms, you'll get us cancelled, man.
Yeah, exactly. I don't mean that in a bad way, but it does have that vibe for me. It's like a massive, oversized rescue bot in a way.
Exactly.
Yeah, it totally is. So I've just shared on our channel the box. So this is my box, and it's actually it's labeled as a 5+.
It's a lovely box, Jason.
Thank you.
I love the try me on his abs. Like,
yeah.
Bit like Tupac has Thug Life, Optimus Prime on this box has Try Me.
Try me.
But it is the funniest. But this
Try me,
right?
sucker.
It's the funniest box ever. Like, look at that auto spin conversion, and you see his little head peeking out on that middle, the middle bit there.
Massive axe.
The thing as well that this specifically was called Rollout Command Optimus Prime because the rollout part of it was the gimmick. Yeah. Ultra axe, pop out blades, everything. It was all pop in here as well. Sixo, actually.
Love it.
It feels like so much of it is made for people who just want to go, you know, and spend the time turning it into a truck.
Maybe that's what I do in my own spare time, you know?
I think that's what it's for, isn't it? It really is that, like, it's almost like a robot-shaped activity center. It is that gimmicks, bits and bobs to play with for kids to have this thing just to carry around with them, like a teddy bear, but that's a robot.
Yeah, it's almost like that Jada Toys Optimus, the self-converting one now, isn't it? It's the sort of equivalent to that kind of thing.
Yeah, it is. It is
a cool
very
looking
like
thing, man.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why when I say whatever I said about this thing, I'm not dissing it because it's absolutely doing what it's meant to be doing. That's the thing. One thing that is interesting, I'm just looking at your box, Jason, I hope you don't mind, is that it says Supreme on the box.
It does. Yeah.
Very small letters.
Yeah. That's such a big word, yeah.
It's just hidden, isn't it? It's just like, it's not like they're yelling about it.
Yeah. Supreme.
Supreme. Oh, yeah, just on the left in that tiny triangle.
Yeah. It's Supreme.
Yeah. It's a Supreme.
Secret escapes.
Yeah.
On them adverts.
Secret escapes.
That's what it's like. But this is the kind of thing, like, you can imagine, like, if you gave this to... Now he's advertising holidays.
Oh, God.
But you can imagine, if you gave this to Savano, he'd be like, say, look, Daddy, look, this is what he does. He does this, he does this. Whereas if you gave him, say, a regular leader class toy, it'd be... He can move, you know. It doesn't have these features, and now that's what this is for, isn't it?
Yeah, it's for that. It's for that slightly younger age, definitely. And it's, I mean, what a ridiculous thing. I just think it's hilarious that, again, just the look of it, that it's got the bumper hanging off his bum and things like that. That, you know, are we going to do anything with that? Are we going to make it fold away?
Nah.
Who cares?
Never.
It's big and fun in it, you know.
Does that make it a butler?
It is a bumper, yeah.
A butler.
Yeah. It's a bumper.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, gosh, of course it is.
Yeah, there you
like
go.
a bum bag.
Yeah, exactly. It's his bum bag, yeah, bumper bag.
Or as Americans call them, fanny packs.
Yes, they do. They do, I believe, call it that. Yes.
I've just posted. So you guys might have seen this, but I've just posted a picture of him sitting on my shelves.
Oh God!
You see him? He's on there.
You can't miss him, mate. He's got his own orbit.
With his axe.
Can you see him?
So the axe is huge. See, you can see, like, you kind of, if you just moved him down next to Masterpiece Ultra Magnus, you know, he's masterpiece scale. This guy, he's a big boy.
But nothing else about it.
No,
Not at all. Love that. He's masterpiece scale.
This is so Jason, you've got MP10, all these masterpieces, and you've got all these deluxes, but you've got stuff like Fans Project City Commander, Fans Project Warbot the Old Springer, and then just there is Rollout meeting Optimus Prime on the top. And what a collection of toys.
Do you know, that's purely it doesn't fit in any of the shelves kind of issue. That's
you got him next to that Nightwatch Optimus, haven't you?
That's my only Bayformers robot,
That's really cool.
Quite cool.
Yeah, it's a cool deco, that one. Oh man, this thing is hilarious. I'm so pleased that you have it so proudly displayed. It's wonderful.
And that's the arm that does the kind of bashy like spring-loaded bit as well with the axe. So.
Right.
Bashy. Can we put that on a t-shirt?
Bit of the old bashy.
That's what he does, doesn't he, when he fights Megatron?
Bashy special.
Bashy.
Spot the old bashy, sir. Yeah, I just think this is hilarious. Honestly, just the look of it is just... What?
Yeah.
I love that you have this and not the Voyager.
I know, it's so funny, isn't it? I don't know if I ever saw the Voyager.
I know.
I need to get
you
that.
said that, and then now I just feel like you're going to get the Voyager because I know you've been enabled on it. You're going to get it, and you're going to be like, "My God, this is brilliant!"
Yeah, this is look at his face.
Yeah.
I know, totally. It's a whole other world.
Absolutely
Jason,
brilliant.
in that picture, who is the small child human you've got at the bottom next to?
Oh, it's one of those. It's from one of those Kiss players. It's a wee girl in.
It's Spinal Tech Asterix.
Yeah.
It's I think it's the one.
It's the Asterix. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
it is.
It's not Kiss players. Yeah, but I mean similar concept. But
it doesn't look like Asterix to me. The little Gaul.
There you go. Checking my database. There we go.
That was a Supreme class joke, wasn't it?
It's alert. It's alert, and
there you go. I was going to say.
Alert. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, Binaltech Asterix alert. So this thing was $50 as well. Animated rollout command Optimus Prime.
I did not pay that.
No, well, that's what it was at retail. I think what's interesting then is that from there it kind of it sort of dissipates a little bit. So they did release the Universe 2008 repaint of Unicron as a Supreme class toy, also for $50. And then in, I think it was 2010, I guess, what was Revenge of the Fallen? That was, they did the Devastator, which was technically a Supreme combiner. But this was $100.
Oh, wow.
Was that? No, it was 2009, wasn't it? I want to say, actually. 2009. I'm probably getting a bit ahead of myself. So, have you guys seen this? Picture of this?
Yeah. This is the one where he's in that weird squatting pose all the time, isn't he?
Yep.
Yeah.
That is the one.
It looks like the Gladiator's toy. He's in that same pose.
Yeah.
It is, isn't it?
I'll chuck you a picture over just in case you've forgotten about this thing's majesty.
So, yeah.
Majesty is the word for it.
Yeah. I think this is one of those where that CGI model that was made for the film is incredible. Like, I know not everybody likes it, the design of it. That's fine. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm just saying that the actual, digital model is really like a work of art in its way. Like, regardless of if you like the look of it or not, it's incredible. Just the complexity of it. I mean, it blew CGI and all of that out of the water at the time. What VFX artists were sort of expected to do and all of that. It was just incredible. Landmark thing. Translating that to a toy like this, even for $100, is hard, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it doesn't transform, does it? Like they don't turn to the robot modes, do they?
No,
they
I don't believe so. No.
Turn into the vehicles, turn into the parts.
Yes.
And I mean, where's the Supreme class balls? Where's that at?
I think you can get an add-on. You can get a third-party kit for it. Yeah,
probably can. Sure, someone's done it.
So I want to know where you have to go to get that kind of thing.
Jason knows a guy.
I know a guy.
I remember this coming out, and I remember
at
the time thinking it is just like you say, like what they had to do for the VFX model and stuff, and how incredible it was. And it's like maybe they can't quite know the toys because there were so many different versions of this toy. And I think is it like the Legends class one that does transform, but there were other ones that had like extra Constructicons in because they couldn't get it
Yeah.
in.
I think the Legends one does transform, but it's, I mean, not what anybody was looking for from this thing at the time, was it?
This just sits in a really weird space because obviously you don't get robot modes. You just get vehicles that turn into a giant robot. But I can never work out because the movie isn't really for little kids, is it? So
It's
it's
strange
kind of an awkward sitting toy.
Yeah, it's all of it. We've got to talk about Revenge of the Fallen more at some point, Liam. I know you don't want to, but yes.
We ended on such a high after just doing the first movie. We ended that saga on such a high.
I know. No. I just think that it's
we
so
can do
fascinating.
Bumblebee. Why don't we do that?
Yeah, but I just think there's so much to say because you're right. Who is it for, really? Like, you know, and I'm not dissing it. Like, I actually don't mind this Devastator as a design, like in the film. Like, it's not classic Devastator, obviously, by any intent, but I don't mind it. You know, the kind of more animalistic. You know,
I like the idea of it more than what it is.
Yeah.
Like the gaping maw, this huge creature, like this sort of juggernaut thing that's just this impossible beast to defeat, and then you kind of, and it's really impressive what they do. It's not my favorite design, but I can get on board with the idea of it. It must be something that's really hard just to get into that kind of thing, because I guess it wasn't designed to be like this, was it? It was designed for film first.
Yeah, so they could choose the angles, choose the shots. That was it.
Yeah, versus animated, which was made, you know, cartoon and toy sort of in tandem. Together. This is the exact opposite of that. It's like we're just going to make the most impressive CGI model that we can, figure it out as a toy, and this is the result of that. But it does still have electronics, and it's still, you can see why it's at that price point. But interestingly, this was, if anything, the sort of last supreme toy of its kind, I think, or certainly of that, you know, kind of ilk.
Yeah. You can really see why. Like, I can't imagine kids being like, "Dad, I want that one with the balls." You know? I mean, the movie wasn't for kids either. It wasn't rated for kids.
No,
so
it was.
And I know it had a toy line, but the toy line was targeting adults as much as anything. And this feels like it's in a funny place. It's not like animated rollout Optimus at all.
No.
It doesn't serve anyone
strange.
well, I don't think.
No, I kind of agree with you, because equally, what parent is going to watch the film and then buy that toy for their kid?
Exactly.
You know, really,
they're not at all.
Yeah.
Excuse me, sir, in Toys R Us, but do you have that one robot with the balls?
Exactly. Yeah.
It's
not going to happen.
I need it for my 7-year-old.
It's all a bit of an awkward conversation,
but it's
up on a list.
Exactly. It's just proportionally a weird looking thing. That's all.
Yeah,
you know, it's got its tiny little chicken legs and massive hulking. And, you know, as the concept of it's cool, and it's just like, all right, this is like a machinery that comes alive and combines, and how they use like the cement mixer, which is his head. And that's kind of cool.
It looks like a kid's toy, doesn't it, though? That's it. It looks like a really young kid's version of that design.
It does.
Looks janky. And I actually think that image you shared, the Sixo as well, is actually making it look better than it. Because if you look from the side,
that's a stock photo.
Does not look good. So it's like,
if you look at actual in-hand photos, it does not look like
no,
that.
it doesn't. It looks like it's going to fall apart any second.
Look at that head.
I know, it looks awful. So
it is.
The head on the actual toy looks like a Mighty Max base. It doesn't look like this.
Exactly. It's just not pleasant.
Lord,
not the best.
Yeah, it's a bizarre old thing.
Maybe Supreme Cheetor isn't the worst Supreme class.
Right, exactly. Well, we can definitely say that out of all of these toys, Supreme Cheetor was the first.
That's very true.
Yeah.
And the best. Maybe.
So, to kind of wrap us up then, because from here, obviously, Supreme is not technically a thing anymore, but there are still plenty of big toys. And I think Titan class, you know, with Metroplex kind of kicking that off, that's its own thing in many ways, and bigger. As well, and more expensive, and that I think is very much another conversation. Although clearly you can sort of see that there is a bit of a through line, if you will, through all these toys. Like they've predominantly mostly got electronics or big gimmicks, and it does feel like that was the sort of overarching thing behind this price point. Do you think that's fair to say?
Yeah, I would. Although I'll tell you one thing that I would like to see more in the Titans is what we talked about with the Energon Omega Supreme. And those the mechanisms where you could spin stuff and the turrets move, and you've got kind of additional kind of play value within that. I think we're not getting that in Titans unless Tidal Wave has that into some fashion. You know, I just really enjoyed that. You know, firing projectiles, all that kind of stuff. Not maybe as bothered, but I just feel that there could be more little elements that are just that play value, which is a big thing that we've talked about today, and what is so fun about the kind of the Supreme class that we're picking out. They've got a lot of really nice play value about them. That's what I see in a Supreme class figure.
I think that's perfectly,
Absolutely
perfectly
right,
concluded. I think you're absolutely right. Yeah, definitely. Right, well, I think that's going to about do it for our chat on Supreme Toys. And I know we've said it throughout, but I feel like we're going to come back to some of these individually in a lot more detail, because certainly I want to talk about Omega Supreme a lot more. I want to talk about Primus a lot more. And, the point of this ultimately was to kind of give an overview of the size class, which I like to think we've done. So thank you very much to Billy Gator, who suggested this topic you may remember as a mini-sode for our Patreon, which brings me on nicely to the fact that we have a Patreon, which is very exciting. And you should all check it out because it's got lots of good stuff on there. You can just sign up as an apologetic ramp just to support us, or you can be a man in pig and you can get access to episodes exactly like this up to a week early, sometimes even a little bit more if we're feeling particularly generous on that particular day. Or you can be an inner beast and get access to our Discord, which, as we always say, is the pop-in place to be. Just thinking about Inner Beast, actually, is that like that Gary Chalk that's stuck inside that?
Yeah. Oh no, that's exactly what he is. He is the Inner
trapped
Beast.
inside that Optimus Primal. Yeah, or you can be a Sixo's Butler, which is where you get access to the minisodes. You definitely want access to minisodes because that's where you get all of the kind of extra conversation that's going on around these episodes. And you can then be a Gold Box Classic, where you get access to our fortnightly mini series as well. And we've got a couple of good ones on the horizon. We've just had the Gladiators. You can find out what Jason was all a flutter about on that one.
It's not just Jason.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
There's somebody who's more a flutter, and it's not Jason, and it's definitely not me.
Was it me?
It's definitely
really was you.
Was
somebody whose name starts with 6 and ends in O.
Oh, man.
But yes.
Oh.
Oh no.
Oh.
Busted.
Oh no.
Yeah. Busted. Right, well, you have to get listening to that then, won't you? Find out what that was all about. But there is another perk of our Patreon as well, which is that we answer a few questions on the pod. And I think we have some tonight, don't we, Jason?
We do indeed. So we got 3 questions tonight. The first one is from Menastreaker, which is many 2000 Takara Transformers lines have small little campaign items like Microns for Armada, Energon weapons for Superlink, special weapons for Dark of the Moon, Age of Extinction movies. To collectors of your caliber, that's us guys, do these sort of campaign items interest you at all? If they do, are they any you would wish to own? Sixo, what do you reckon?
Not really, to be honest. It's not really my bag. Not really my jam. I got to tell you. I think it's fun. They're really like cool little. Like some of the microns and things like that. Yes, absolutely. The mini cons essentially that absolutely would appeal. Energon weapons, less so. I think. I think it's a great idea. It's just such a rabbit hole that I don't think it's one that I would want to go down. Some of the individually coloured minicons I think are really nice. I remember Maz got given one. At
really?
TFN one year. Yeah, he got
I was there when he did his lucky dip.
Yeah.
The green car.
Yeah. Was it who was it doing it?
Jason.
It's Jason Murray. Yeah, it was Jason. Yeah. And right, so Maz pulled this thing out and it was a green spark plug and he was just like, oh, and I literally looked at it and was like, oh my God. Like, have you got that? Do you know what I mean? And yeah. But anyway.
I've got to beat that out now.
So, they're fun things, absolutely. I just think it's a bit of a rabbit hole that I probably wouldn't want to go down.
Liam?
Same for me. They've never really interested me that much because they're just all usually small little things that don't catch my eye. There was a brief period in the 2010s somewhere where they were doing like the power core combiners and different minicons as the target masters. So you were getting like Cups target master, for like the Generations toys to Takara.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
And there was a brief time where I was a bit annoyed that I couldn't get them, but in general, no.
Yeah. So I'd be into the Armada Microns because I love the mini cons, and I actually quite like the microns, the idea of them, but I wouldn't chase them down. It would be a whole other part to the collection, which I think would take me off.
Yeah, it's like mini bot collecting. It's like any of those kind of particular niches that it's just a lot of time and attention and focus and
that's it.
Annoyance and everything else that goes with that, really, isn't it? I guess.
Yeah.
But I like the idea of it.
So, Menestrika, hope that answered your question. The next one we've got is MetaBZ. There. MetaBZ. What size class or price point?
Just to go with earlier classics such as Bonzarat, should I say?
Do you know, I wanted to check.
No, we're leaving that in.
I'll be right, I don't want to add an extra A in there.
Where would you put the A?
Well, there's a MetaBZ. Yeah, anyway, you get the MetaBZ.
Right.
Would it not be MetaBZ? Is that not?
Well, yeah, that's
Z?
a good. Oh, yeah, there we go. I know. You say Z,
geez.
I say Z. MetaBZ. That rhymes, doesn't it? That's great.
Yes.
I like that. Okay.
I assume that's what it's for.
MetaBees. Oh, maybe it's like a bumblebee reference. Oh, there we go.
Metabees.
MetaBees.
Oh my
So
God.
from MetaBees, what size, class, or price point do you like most?
Oh, topical.
It is actually, yeah, very topical. Right, so Liam, you can kick us off on this one.
Micromaster. I'm just going to say Micromasters. I love Micromasters. Little tiny robots.
Oh, well, I am experiencing those now, and I would have to agree they're a lot of fun. But,
Or Voyager. I like the Voyagers. They're all pretty cool.
This is a really hard one for me. I think there's often like really good deluxe scale Transformers. Like just thinking through like Beast Wars, animated, it's like whatever that sort of class is now, although it's often kind of deluxe, isn't it? Still now.
Yeah,
It's still deluxe, yeah. I think that's really just a very solid creative price point where it's like it's not too flashy, but it's really nice sort of detailed representation of those characters. I think that sits really nicely for me.
Yeah, totally. The deluxe always make me think of like kind of your Autobot cars from the G1.
Yeah, exactly. It's that.
It's that nostalgia part of it.
Yeah.
And I kind of jumped between deluxe, but I would say Voyager purely because I like they're kind of a fun deskbot size for me, and you get a wee bit more complexity on the transformation. So
yeah,
be Voyager on mine. Last question we have here is from Steve Stewart. G2 is often unfairly criticised for being G1 repaints.
True.
But these are actually quite few in number. Which of the 84-85 molds that didn't get used would you like to have seen make it over, and in what colours?
All of them.
Yes, a good answer.
Every single one.
Yeah.
Literally rack them up. No, I mean, I get that's not the spirit of the question.
But it's a fair answer. Yeah,
it's true. Certainly true. Yeah, I mean, just G1 recolors, man. Go crazy. Wheeljack.
Okay, right.
A recolored Wheeljack in literally any color. Blue, red, yellow. Don't mind.
Illuminous. It's got to go GT, doesn't it? Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. Well, he's right. The recolors, crazy colors and all of that, it's not really that big a thing in G2. It's really not. Like it's, it sort of came later, if anything. But I think Wheeljack would be a good one, or Sunstreaker maybe.
Yep.
A black Sunstreaker.
Oh, that would be cool.
To go with the black sideswipe.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
I have had this Discord chat like half off the screen. So I cut it off where the question says which, and then the next line for me says molds. So I didn't see the bit where it says of the 1984-85.
All right.
Yeah,
so
right.
I've had my answer all night. Like, I'm just going to say Computron because I love the techno.
Yeah,
that
quite
would be
right.
great.
Do it. Why not?
The second Jason just said that, and then I was like, it doesn't say that. The thing, then I moved the window and oh, it does say that. It's just off the side of the screen. So I'm going to pick the Datsuns because we never saw those in G2, did we? So
no.
Like, what would you do with a smoke screen in like a different kind of racing deco, or Prowl as I don't know, like a black police car? I suppose like Barricade.
Yeah, totally. So you guys literally are reading my notes again somehow, because I have here Datsuns, Prowl, Blue Streak, Smokescreen, and Sunstreaker.
Oh, there you
That's
go.
where I'd want to go. And it makes sense, doesn't it? Those cars, we've just got so few, and the ones that we got look great, but we want them all. I want them all.
But check out this. I just dropped a picture in our chat. I mean, I'm thinking Wheeljack, obviously.
Oh, yeah. Amazing. Yeah.
Something
Perfect.
like that.
That would be so lovely.
Dark blue, like with all the racing livery and all of that, and then like bright yellow
and
wheels,
gold rims.
gold rims, just
somewhere
amazing.
sat next to a volcano. Maz's ears have just pricked up. Seen in this picture.
Exactly.
He's like,
Yeah, what is it? What are they talking about?
Yeah, something's pricked up.
Race
He's just
cars.
reached for his pillow.
Oh, we're gonna get notes from him after this.
Exactly. If he's listening to this now, he's like, right. We'll be getting a letter from him next time.
I know exactly. And then last but very much not least, we have 2 new patrons to join us. So a warm welcome to Colin Adami, who joined us as a Goldbox Classics, and Sophie Strever, who joined us as an Inner Beast. So welcome to Sophie and Colin. Thank you so much for signing up, guys.
Thank you so much. Yeah, great to have him on board.
Hello there. I can't do the GIF,
Is that your-
so I'm doing the. This is like the vocal version.
Wow.
Hello there.
Hello there. Hello there.
I'm going to take that recording and I'm going to cut
Use it forever.
I'm going to cut it to the scene of Obi-Wan Kenobi saying that with your voice. That's absolutely what I'm going to do. It has to be done.
So when my cousin Richard, who I'd mentioned before, met Ewan McGregor, he went, hello there, as he came in. And Ewan was like, nice. That's all you got.
That's cool. You got to have a sense of humour, didn't you, with that stuff? Should also mention then that we also have a sponsor for the evening, and that is tfsource.com. Do check them out for all your Transformers and third-party needs.
And there is somewhere you can go if you want merch. You can head over to our Rebel, which is rebel.com/people/triple takeover/explore.
Explore.
And we're on all the social medias like Twitter, Blue Sky, Facebook, and Instagram. Just search for us at Triple Takeover. We're all there. So, guys, Sixo, where can they find you?
I'm at SixoTF anywhere there's a net. No, I can't do that.
No.
Can I?
No.
Look, I
Trademark.
contacted my lawyer over this blatant trademark infringement.
Yeah, indeed. I need to come up with something equally catchy. But yes, I'm on social media on many platforms. If you're on those platforms, I probably am as well. And I'm at SixoTF.
Not quite as snappy, but it works.
Yeah, exactly. That's like the Amazing Spider-Man version of "with great power comes with great responsibility."
Exactly. That's it. Yeah,
You have a moral obligation to do those things. Yes, that is that explanation.
Brilliant. So at jswags.com, where can they find you?
Well, there you go. Spoilers.
There.
jswags.com. That's it. Still
J-Swags.
redirects to my interview. That's it. One day I'll have a website. A proper
website.
I know.
But you're on social media.
Oh, yeah, I am. Lots of different channels, which if you search for me, I'll come up. That's what'll happen. Yeah. Liam, what about you?
I'm at Toybox Soapbox, anywhere there's an at.
Yes.
TM.
Yes.
Registered trademark, copyright.
There we
On
go.
brand. Boom.
Liam MCMXXXVVI, or whatever they have these things.
Yeah.
So I think if there's one thing that I've concluded from all of this chat about all these Supreme toys is that you can't hurry love.
Oh,
You can't after 2.5 bloody hours.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
You definitely can't
indeed.
hurry along.
Yeah, indeed. Well, on that note, it's probably time, isn't it, to say stop in the name of love. So we'll bid you farewell with that one. But I hope you've enjoyed the chat, and we'll catch you next time.
That's good. It just doesn't work. Yeah.
At all. It's dire.
And
Talking about Supreme Cheeto.
We're
yeah.
gonna keep that in there. Yeah.
You see, it almost gave me a heart attack. What's going on?
It's like, stop talking about the cat.
Get me a Supreme Cheeto, Liam.
Yeah, exactly.